Hi, my name is CareyHolzman and today is May the 11th, 2021. Right now, those of you watching live are watching a premiere. What a premiere is a previously uploaded video that is being released to the public for the first time so that the chat can be active and people can participate and interact with each other. However, the video you're about to watch was filmed over 2.5 years ago for a build that I did. And the reason why I am re-airing this video is that two reasons. One, the view numbers were very low, so obviously many of you did not see it. Two, the computer came back to me for an upgrade. It's been running great, and unlike other YouTube channels, I like to follow up reviews to find out how the machine has worked over time. That Astrape power supply, has it been any good? Has it failed? Have there been any problems with the computer over the last 2.5 years? Well, you're going to find out in the follow-up video in part 3 that will air preferably tomorrow if I can get to it. So please don't confuse this with a traditional live video. You should be able to tell that I'm in an older location and I look a lot younger, and that's because this video, as of May 11th, 2021, the video you're about to watch was recorded 2.5 years ago. And as I mentioned, unlike other YouTube content creators who might have a product for a few days and review it and then determine whether or not you should buy it or not with such little experience, I don't think it's very useful. So what I like to do, because I'm an actual professional in the industry, I don't get to sell products to customers and then say bye and never see you again. When those customers have problems, ideally they'll call me because that's how I stay in business. Or if the product is under warranty and I see a number of products making me look bad to my customers, then I will obviously not use that product anymore because it's too damaging to my business. I have a lot more at stake than typical YouTube tech enthusiasts. That's not a dig at YouTube tech enthusiasts. I think they're all great, wonderful people. However, you should be aware of the difference of the kind of content you're watching on YouTube and who it is that's creating it, if that kind of information is important to you. So what is about to begin is part 2 of the Gamdias build. And the Gamdias build, I didn't have all the parts I needed at the time of the build. And so what's going to happen in this next video is I'm going to replace the processor. I'm going to install an M.2 SATA drive because the NVMe drives were way too expensive for 2 terabytes. So we go with a Samsung 860 on that. And there's a few other things I do. And then it gets delivered to the customer. The next video you'll see, we're going to fast forward to 2.5 years later, look at the condition of the computer, and I will update you on that computer status and what it's been like to live with over the last 2.5 years. And based on that information, you can decide if, for yourself, if those are the kind of parts that you'd want to buy or not want to buy, based on a long-term real review life, folks. I hope you enjoy. Hello and welcome into my latest live feed. Today is, what is today? Today's Black Friday. It's the 23rd of November, 2018. And today we're going to continue where we left off yesterday. I did this build with the Gamdias Talos M1 case, which has the tempered glass side panel. And these parts, some of these parts are going to come out, we're going to upgrade it. It's occurred to me I don't show very many upgrades on the channel. And I thought it was a great excuse to, well, quite frankly, the parts hadn't arrived and I wanted to do a video yesterday, so I used these parts. And then this morning, other parts came in. I'm still waiting on the graphics card. I'm hoping it'll come in while we're live. Otherwise, you know, the show must go on either way. So that's where we're going. Let me just adjust the camera a little bit here. Let's back it up just a little bit. I just can't seem to... I was so frustrated because I wanted to buy 2 more of these cameras and Canon had them on sale for Black Friday, but apparently they started yesterday. So by the time I got done with the live feed and checked, they were already sold out. So hopefully they'll keep the sale going when more inventory comes in, and we'll find out. But in the meantime, a special shout out to 2 generous contributions received recently, Peter Laycock and John Wilson. Thanks to you gentlemen for your generosity and for helping support this channel and keep it going. I also have a complaint from the customer. The customer says, "How come you just call me customer?" Oh boy. Oh boy. I'm gonna have to have a drink. It's time to start with a Coke. There we go. All right. Hello to everybody joining in the chat. Jesse Kirk, Nelson Contreras. Where's my mouse? There it is. Who else we got in there? Robert Jones, Samuel Ramos, Matthew Barnes, Gortok One, Philip Musto, Catherine Anna Hauserman joins us, Victor Moss, Philip Musto, Jose and Veronica Lopez, PC Fishing, Paul, 1961, Patrick Rootsaw, Bartek Castorni, Artek, A Life of Gaming with Deldorge, GeoSam, Darren Belmore, Greg M, John Wilson, Solo, GeoSam, PC Gamer, Dave Foote, Kieran Blackburn, Cyclops the Eye, Magnum, Stephen Spencer, Sharon Idle, Donnie Seeger, Zen Carter, Stephen Barber, Peter Brooks, Hallie, Michael Lilly, Carlos Adams. Hello everybody, welcome in. We got about 300 people, a little over 300 watching. And so, yes, so the story is, this is actually a friend I've known for a very long time. And let's just say, I'm a married man, I have to be careful. We were close. And so I'm just treating her like any other customer. She's joining us in the chat right now. That's Maralina Dvorak. You'll see her in the chat there. And she is my muse. If you're lucky enough to have a muse, there you go. Okay? Are you happy? Are you happy? Are you happy, Mara? Okay? You're not just customer anymore, okay? Everybody knows who you are now. There it is. Everybody can know. The one that got away. All right, so let's get to work. Enough of that. Good Coke. First Coke of the day is always the best one. All right. Oh, she says much better. See, this is what I'm talking about, guys. This is it right here. This is what they do to you. This is what they do. So the parts we're going to swap out today, we've got a Western Digital Black 6 terabyte mechanical drive. We've got 32 gigs of Trident Z RGB 3200 speed DDR4 RAM. We've got a Samsung 860 EVO 2 terabyte. Yeah, look at that. Did he say 2 terabyte? He said 2 terabyte. Ooh, ah, oh. Oh, look at this, right out of the gate, Frederick Lundholm has contributed 1,000 Swedish krona. That's about 111 US dollars. Thank you so much, Frederick. I appreciate that so much. The generosity of several of my viewers has been incredible, so I can't thank you guys enough for that. Now, as I mentioned, we'll be adding a 1080 Ti graphics card, but it has not yet arrived, and I'm hoping that while I'm working today, that we'll hear a doorbell, or you'll hear the dogs bark. That's what we can. Usually I don't like that. Today, let's hope so. All right. So I think what we're going to do, and I was thinking about this the other day, I always show you guys examples of how acronis can be used, and there seems to be this hang-up over cloning an M.2 drive to another M.2 drive. Like if you don't have two M.2 slots, how would you do it? And you'd still do that with acronis, but instead of doing a clone, you'd make an image to a third drive. Like you could use a USB flash drive if it's big enough, or you could use an external USB hard drive and just temporarily clone the image and then restore the image after you replace the M.2. So for that, we're going to start there today because I mean, we've got a perfectly good working Windows 10 install. And it's no big deal to reinstall it, but what a great opportunity to show you how to move one M.2 to another M.2. Whether it's NVMe or SATA, it doesn't matter. Let me find what I can clone to. I've got something here. Let's see. Yeah, this will work. This is a Patriot Supersonic Magnum 256 gigabyte flash drive. Now clearly this is a new install of Windows 10. It's not going to be anywhere near that. It's probably closer to around 25 gigs. I haven't checked it, but I would guess right around there. So even a 32 gig flash drive would benefit us in this scenario, but I'm just going to go overkill on this. Usually these larger flash drives are also faster, and so for the purposes of making this go as quickly as possible, we'll utilize this. All right, so I'm going to start by booting to the Acronis 2019 rescue disk that I created, which I have a video showing you how to do just that. Of course, you have to buy the product. I usually pay about $30. I never install the software. The software does all kinds of amazing things. I don't use any of that. All I do is use this, and I make my backups with this and everything. A couple more contributions have come in. Let me give some shout outs here to, let's see, A Life of Gaming with Del Dorge has contributed £5. He says, I love your videos. Thank you, and let's make sure that you are a moderator. And of course, Frederick has contributed again, 100 Swedish krona. So again, it's like another $11. Thank you, Frederick. Thank you so much. Okay. All right, don't be asking Mara for any secrets. Come on now, guys. Come on. All right. She knows things. Don't go probing. There's information you don't want to know. Okay. All right, so let's boot. Now I got you curious, don't I? That probably backfired on me. All right, let's go ahead and boot to the Acronis flash drive first and foremost. And let me go ahead and, you know what? I'm going to leave the other flash drive out of it for right now. We need to run some HDMI cable to the capture card so you guys can see what I'm doing here. All right, here we go. Let's see, HDMI right there. And we got to plug this in. Switch is on. Everything should be ready to rock and roll. So let's move over to the other input. Oh, there I am. All right, let's see what happens. Oh, I guess I need this keyboard and mouse now, don't I? So we're going to do, is it F12? I don't know. This is an MSI board. I don't know what it is. I'm going to hit F12. No, that didn't work. That's all right. So what we've got to do is we've got to get to the boot order, and we want it to, instead of booting from the M.2, which it just did, we want it to boot from the USB. So what I'm going to do for that is, this can be a little tricky in Windows 10. We go to the settings button and we'll go to, let's see, got to remember what it is here. Update and security, troubleshoot. Oh, I'm sorry, not troubleshoot, it's under recovery. We want advanced startup, so restart now. And we want to go to use a USB drive, we'll click that, and we want that first one right there. So that's one way of avoiding going into the BIOS with Windows 10. You tell Windows 10, I want you to restart and boot from my flash drive. I've never shown that before, so it should now boot to Acronis, and it just did. We'll push the number 1 to load Acronis Trimage 64-bit edition. And once Acronis loads, then I'm going to plug the flash drive in and give the software a moment to recognize it before we start the imaging process. So it'll just take a moment here. There we have the main screen up, so I'll go ahead and plug this into another USB drive, or USB port rather. We'll go right here. That's a big USB drive. Is it going to fit? Yeah, we got it. All right. So give it just a second. USB devices can take 30 seconds to a minute to get recognized. So what I'm going to do is I want to go to backup right here. I'll click backup. I want to back up my disk and partition. And which disk do I want? Well, I want the 500 gig disk, which is this one that's already selected as disk 3. And everything is checked, right? Just by making sure you check next to disk 3, it'll check everything below it. And these are the 3 partitions that Windows 10 made during that install. And I'll hit next, and it wants to know if I'm creating a new backup or adding to an existing. We're creating new. It wants to know where we're going to put the backup. We're going to put it on, is it this drive? I should see, that's our main C drive. The D drive, hold on a minute. Let me go back because I wasn't paying attention to the other drives that were offered. Okay, so disk 2, it shows, is the 256 gig USB drive here. What is disk 1? Oh, 416 megs. That's the USB flash drive I just booted Acronis from. It's a 2 gig flash drive, but it partitions it out as just the size of the ISO image of the bootable image that we use to create the USB flash drive. So we're not going to be using disk 1. So we are going to go to the D drive. So again, make sure that disk 3 is selected with all the partitions. We'll hit next, and it wants to know where we're going to. So we're creating a new backup, and we're going to the D drive. So we'll select D right here, and we'll just call this, Muse. I don't know who that is. And we'll click OK. Backup method, you can choose to do we're going to do a full backup here, even though incremental in this case would be essentially the same as full. But with full, you can't add to it. It's kind of a locked backup, which is what I want. You can exclude certain folders, file types, directories. We're going to leave all that alone. As for backup options, I always want it to verify or validate the backup. Don't take risks. Always validate your backup. That should be on by default, Acronis. Just saying. And if you want to put any comments, you could put the date and any notes to yourself. I don't need any of that. We'll just hit proceed. And now it shouldn't take too long. It's going to just go ahead and take everything on this hard drive, all the partitions, take a snapshot of the entire hard drive and put it into a single file. And that file will be the size of all the data added up, minus any compression that it gets out of it. And it'll be just a few minutes while we wait for that. And you'll see this in real time. Okay. They want to know if this case has a slot for a DVD drive. I don't know where you would put it. This is a big piece of glass that would prevent any access to a USB drive. And this, obviously, you'd want, and this you want. So I don't know where else you'd put one. You could always plug a USB external DVD drive in there, but there doesn't appear to be any place that I can tell for, as you can see, there's no brackets here to mount any drives apart from putting some 3.5-inch drives flat against the back of the motherboard tray. There's no place for a DVD or an optical drive. So I would safely say no. But if anybody knows differently, please let me know. There, the backup operation is already done. That didn't take too long, did it? So let's go ahead and click OK on that. And we can close Acronis, but I can't see the X because I'm in the way. Ah, now I can see it. Honestly, you don't even have to hit the X. At this point, I just hit the switch on the power supply. You don't have to wait for it. There's nothing to be saved here. We're going to leave the Acronis disk plugged in for right now. With the power supply switch in the off position, I can now replace that M.2 drive. So we're going to start there. We're going to start with grabbing the 860 Evo. I suppose it would help if you could see me, huh? Okay, sorry. We grab the 860 Evo and let's get this open. Oh, there it is. And I need a screwdriver. We're going to use just a magnetic #2 Phillips. And we're going to take this USB, I keep calling it USB. We're going to take this M.2 drive out. Power supply is in the off position. You do not want to work on the computer with the computer simply off. In fact, it's best to actually pull the power cable just to be safe. And there's the Electrolux, or what is it? Electronics Pro X drive that I was using. I'm going to put that back in the package. And it'll show up in another build in another day. It served its purpose for this build. Now, in this instance, we're actually going from an NVMe drive to a SATA drive with acronis. But with that image, we can recover that image to anything that'll hold it. In other words, anything big enough to hold the storage data. We're looking at hard drives, solid state drives, flash drives, memory cards, whatever will hold it, we can move it to. Now, getting Windows to boot from a memory card, that's another, that's ridiculous. But yes, Windows will boot from the image that whatever we restore it to. And I just want to emphasize that with acronis, you can image anything to anything. And in this case, this is a very common question I get. What if I have an M.2? How do I clone it to another M.2? Now, this is not the only way you can do it. This is the way I do it. So here is our M.2 SATA, because this is way too expensive to get in NVMe. And we'll just pop that right in there. Are you guys able to see it all? No? All right, so now we've got the drive right in there, right there, as you can see right there. And now I'm going to just put the screw back down on it, tighten it back up. Let's see. Yep, that looks good. I really don't like the way this heat spreader goes on here. I like the concept, I like the idea, I just don't like the execution of it. Falls just a little short for me. And this would be better if I did this with the case laying flat. I was doing it in the upright position in the hopes that you could see better, but I realize you can't see anything at this point. Yeah, one day I'll get a cameraman and that'll be that. Well, now I've done it. I've dropped the screw. Now I need a flashlight to find it. Ah, there it is. Okay. Now the graphics card we have coming is very expensive. The 1080 Ti is not cheap. She was able to get it from Amazon $100 cheaper than Newegg. So that's why it was ordered from Amazon. This lazy Susan's not working with me today. It's working against me. So I think I'm gonna have to lay it down because this is getting too much of a challenge. All right, hold on a minute. Let me just set this down. This should be a lot easier now. There we go. All right. Now, this is the way you should be doing it, is laying the case flat, not the way I show on video. Remember, I have to do things a bit awkwardly for the camera to pick it up, and sometimes even then, it's not clear. So if I were doing this without a camera, this is how I would be doing it, and therefore, this is how I recommend you do it as well. Let gravity work with you. Use it to your advantage, don't fight it. All right, I think I've got that lined up now. And should be able to put the screw in to lock it into position. There we go. Okay. Now, there's no operating system, there's no partition, and there's no format on this new M.2 drive. So the only thing the computer can boot to is that Acronis rescue disk. That's the only thing that's bootable in the system. So let's fire it back up. I gotta hit the power supply switch first. Let's fire it back up. And there shouldn't be anything we have to do special. It should just go to the Acronis boot. Let's try. Let's move over to the other input, turn the camera back on over there. There we go. Here we go. And we'll see if that works like I think it's going to, or if it's going to make a liar out of me. Pretty sure it's going to work like I think it should. Should get the Acronis menu up here in just a moment. System's got to figure it out. Yep, there it is. Number 1 to load the 64-bit edition, just like before. And we'll wait for that to load. A Life of Gaming with Del Dorge has contributed £5. He says, thank you for showing the boot from USB flash in Win 10 without going into the BIOS to do it. Well, you're welcome. Oh, we see some friends here in the chat. Irving T joins us from France. Frederick Lundholm contributed 100 Swedish krona. He said, it's my way. Thank you so much. Jay Toy joins us. That's Jack Toy. All right, now. Geez, I sounded like Duffman for a minute, didn't I? Duffman! Sorry, Simpsons reference. Now we're going to go to recovery, and we're going to recover this file right here. Right-click on it, choose recover. It says, where do you want to what do you want to recover? Specific partitions or the whole frickin' thing? I think it should just say the whole frickin' thing right here. That would be really clear, but no, engineers don't talk like that. We want to recover the whole disk and partition and select next. And as if that wasn't enough, we still have to tell it which, and we want all of this, all of that. Hit next. And it wants to know where we want to recover it to, so it's looking for options right now of where it could possibly go. And remember, it's going to automatically resize these partitions so that the 2 terabyte drive, all 2 terabytes will be available. We were just with a 500 gig NVMe drive, and now we've moved over to a 2 terabyte. That's 2,000 gigabyte SATA-based M.2 drive. And it says right here, drive 1 is not initialized, or disk 1. That's the one we want. And then we hit next. And we hit proceed, and now we wait. Now, generally, the recovery is faster than the backup process because we did the verification, right? So watch how fast this is. You can't install Windows 10 this fast, let alone download the updates and the drivers and make those little minor configuration changes. That's what makes this so amazing. And that's why I say, as long as you have a good backup, who cares if your hard drive fails? Look how fast this is. Now, granted, if you've got a hard drive that's 6 terabytes, how are you backing that up? You're backing it up to another 6 terabyte hard drive externally, I hope. It's done. So we click OK. Once again, we can close this window over here. We'll just shut it down. Again, I don't have to do that. That's my OCD. Then I just reach over here and just shut the darn thing down. Unplug both USB flash drives. So this was our image on this one, and this is the Acronis boot disk. We're done with both of these. And I'm just going to set them down, and that's all I have to do. Just turn it back on. Oh, hit the power switch again. Then I'm going to turn it back on, and it should just go right back to how it was. It's really just that easy. There's, other utilities that you can use to clone, but there's so much you have to tweak and modify. And with Acronis, everything's just automatic. And I realize it sounds like I'm some kind of a shill for Acronis, but I am. I am a shill for Acronis, and they don't pay me. I'm a real working technician, and I love this tool. It's one of my favorite tools. And I wish Acronis would pay me to say that, but they don't. But I'm still going to say it anyway because it's true. When I have my choice of any cloning software to use, I always go to Acronis. Every time I've tried something else, everything always falls short to me. But if you don't know any better, I'm sure those other tools are fine. Anyway, come on, Acronis, sponsor me. Look at that, we're already booted up. It looks exactly like the other drive looked. And we can always put this away as a backup if there was anything important on it. And by the way, this right here will hold about 10 of these backups. If these backups are about 20 gigs apiece, and this is a 256 gig drive, where you can do the math. You can hold several backups off several computers right up until you reach the capacity of that, which is pretty darn cool. Now, if we go to the, let's see here, if we go to the C drive, we should see that it's fully partitioned to the maximum space. Yeah, look at this. Oh, no, I'm a liar. It did not automatically resize it. Well, that's okay. I've seen Acronis do this when restoring images. If I would have done a clone, it would have resized it. But in doing images, I'm standing corrected here. But it's easy enough to fix that. We just go to Control Panel, and we'll go to Administrative Tools, and then under Computer Management, and then under Disk Management, which will come up here in just a moment. Disk Management. And we're going to see a big area of unpartitioned space. I'm sure there was an option in Acronis I could have selected. I just was too confident. We're going to extend the volume, click next, click finish. There, now it's done. Sorry about that. Sorry about any confusion in that, but that's how easy it is. You don't have to install any special software. It's all built into Windows. And now, when I go to the C drive, we should see the full capacity of the 2 terabyte drive. But again, on a clone would have done it automatically. And there it is. And everything's set just the way I had it. What more could you possibly want? That's pretty awesome. Let's go ahead and shut this down. And while that shuts down, let's come over here so I can see you guys again. There we go. Ben DeCures contributed $4.99. He says, hello, Carey and chat. Hope everyone is doing well. Ralph Weiser has contributed €10. He says, hey, Carey, great to see you again. Hope you have a good day. Thank you, Ralph. Thanks so much for supporting the channel, and of course to Ben as well. If I missed anything interesting in the chat. Everything looks good. Everything looks good. All right. Now we can swap the RAM out. Real super easy to do the RAM. I'm going to, again, make sure the power supply is in the off position. Drain any additional power out of the board before we start. And we're going to pull out this team group memory that I have. Just open the retention levers and remove the modules. And I saved the box so I can put them back in the box so we can reuse that in another upcoming build. All right. Put that in like this, I think. There's one. And there's the other one. Just like so. I can't get over how heavy this memory is. And we'll put this in here to be used another day for another build. And that's the beauty of upgrading a PC, is a lot of times what you're upgrading are just older parts that aren't up to your needs, but they're probably up to somebody else's needs. Unlike other things in this life, like I don't know, a pizza, when you don't eat the whole thing, and after about a week or so, it's bad and doesn't do anybody any good. These parts will continue to last for many, many years, and while you may have outgrown them, they can always be sold to help pay for an upgrade or given to somebody who could use it. Let's see, let's get the RAM opened up here. So for this time, we're using G.Skill's Trident Z RGB RAM. It looks quite a bit different physically than the Team RAM that I just used. The Team is a little unusual in its design. The Trident memory from G.Skill is a little more traditional in the sense. These are 2 sticks of 16 for a total of 32. We're going to go right back into the same sockets where it came out of. And this way she's got 2 more sockets. If she wants to buy another kit of 32, she could bump this up to 64 just by doing what I'm doing now with 2 more identical sticks into the remaining slots. And again, I would do this with the computer facing down, let you work with gravity. Once again, I keep the computer upright in an effort to show you what I'm doing, but it's certainly not the way I would do it if there was no camera on. I want to be clear about that. Now let's make sure that that works. We'll just do 1 upgrade at a time. And RAM just lit up. Let's go over to the other feed. F1 to run setup. And we can turn XMP back on because we switched the RAM. XMP back on. And then we'll, once again, my video is in the way and I can't see. We want to click exit and yes. And now this time it should reboot and get us right into Windows, and we can verify that we have 32 gigs of RAM. Once we get into Windows, we can check that. And we have a Go Faster sticker. Gotta have that. Okay. Done with this. We're done with this. And we're done with this. Oh, there's some instructions in here the customer might want. Take the, whoops, I just fell out. I've never read them, but I'm waiting for the movie. All right. Now, let's install the Samsung Magician software and see if there's any firmware updates available for the drive. So to do that, I'm going to bring up the browser, which in this case is Microsoft Edge. And we're going to go to Samsung.com/Samsung SSD. We go to Tools and Software, and we want the Samsung Magician software right here. Download. And we're going to open this. We don't need to save it. And we'll just double click on the installer and give it a second as it extracts. Click yes. Click OK. I am not in a GDPR country. Click Next. Agree to the End User License Agreement, or EULA as we call it. Privacy policy. Okay, that's where it's installing to. We don't want any desktop icons. That's fine. That's where it's going to go. That's fine. And we're done. So we'll hit Finish. We can close this and close the other window. Yeah, hit that X by guessing where it was. That's pretty good, right? Skills, man, skills. You'll see right away it says we have an old firmware version on this M.2 drive. So all we have to do, and this is what I love about the Samsung Magician software, we know that we have an authenticated real Samsung drive. We know that it's in good condition. We know there's 0.0 terabytes written. We can see the total capacity, that AHCI mode is activated, that trim mode is enabled, and we can even turn rapid mode on if we want to, which is nothing more than a cache. But it can appear to make the computer run faster. Depending on how you use the computer, you might just see a difference. And you want to have more than 8 gigs of RAM to turn on rapid mode. But let's get back to updating the firmware. Watch how easy it is to update the firmware on a Samsung drive. Check system compatibility for the optimal SSD performance. Okay, new version of firmware is available. Your computer will be shut down after updating firmware in 20 seconds. Please save all your work before updating firmware. Do you want to continue? Obviously, if you were in the middle of reading an email, or if you had Outlook or Word or Excel open or QuickBooks, any applications, you want to close them. You want everything closed. You can let your antivirus run, that's fine. We'll click yes, and now be patient, because much like a BIOS update, it's important the computer doesn't lose power. It happened that quickly. It already downloaded and flashed the drive that fast. And we can manually hit the shutdown button, or if we wait 20 seconds, which we're now down to 8 seconds, it's going to do it on its own. So we're going to let it just do it on its own, since I'm so talkative today and every day. We've run out the 20-second clock anyway. It's doing a proper shutdown, and now that it's completely off, I can turn it back on. It's entirely possible that when Windows comes back on, that it says, oh, I see you have a new hard drive. When you change the firmware, it's not uncommon for Windows to think you actually changed the drive. They used to have all these disclaimers about backing up your data before doing a firmware update, but you should always have a backup anyway. Not when you just expect it to be possible to lose data. It's possible to lose data at any moment, at any time, for any reason that you can't possibly imagine until it happens. And for that reason, we always want backups at all times. So there's our firmware update completed. We can go down here and we should see the Samsung Magician software preload. It's on a delayed start. There it is, just came up. And we'll bring that up. Now firmware version is the latest. It's perfect. If we want to do like performance benchmarks, we can go in here and we can click run performance benchmark and hit start, and we can see what our read and writes are. Because we're SATA, we're probably not going to see more than about 550 megabytes per second on the reads and the writes. And I've got to tell you, I've got a regular SATA-based SSD in my desktop in my office in the back room. I can't see any difference in actual, sitting down and using the computer between that and a much faster NVMe drive. The OS loads very, very quickly. My applications, Outlook, Word, Google Chrome, all that opens in lickety-split, just it's there. So the added performance of NVMe doesn't really make lickety-split that much faster, not noticeable to me anyway. So depending on how you use your computer, it may not make sense for you to buy the NVMe drive for twice the cost, especially if you're coming from a mechanical drive, because you're going to see such an incredible performance difference that you don't know the difference anyway between SATA SSD and NVMe SSD. And even if you do know the difference, you're primarily going to, at least in my world, see it on a benchmark, not so much in real world use. But again, that does vary on how you use the machine. All right, let's see how we're doing on our performance benchmark here. Still running, about halfway done. Can you mix DDR4 RAM? As long as the CAS latency is the same, there's a good chance it'll work, but it might not. It really doesn't matter what the speed of the RAM is. The RAM will only run at the speed of the slowest RAM. Everything slows down. So if you have, say you've got DDR 5000, if such a thing existed, and DDR 2100, the whole system runs at 2100. That should be pretty obvious, right? You can't run the 2100 at 5000, but you can run the 5000 at 2100. So you might be slowing down all of your RAM to whatever the slowest speed is. But the CAS latency, the CAS latency has to be the same. That's no guarantee it'll work, but if it's going to work, it has to have the same CAS latency. So when you do that, run something like memtest 86 and test your RAM and make sure that it's going to work. If it passes memtest 86, you should be fine. There's our numbers, 547 on the read, 491 on the write, random IOPs, IOPS. Yeah, there we go. It's fast. Trust me, it's fast. I know you see these numbers and you go, well, NVMe is so much faster. But I'm telling you, did you see how fast the system booted? You saw it, right? Changing that to NVMe is, doesn't really make that much of a difference in the boot time. It really doesn't. It might shave a second or 2 seconds off of what is already a very quick boot time. So you reach this point of diminishing returns. But again, everybody's different and you buy what's right for you. This is what's right for this customer. Saves a lot of money for something that they probably don't need. And if they change their mind later, you saw how easy it was for me to swap it out, right? Like let's say the prices of the NVMe drives come down to where they're at the price of what this drive costs now. Customer might decide, I want that, it's affordable. And they would just do the same acronis procedure, pop it in, bada bing, bada boom, you forget about it. You're done, you're out of here. It's easy, 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 easy. The only thing is the drive may be pretty full by then, so it may take a little bit more time, but the process is exactly the same. Whether it's SATA, NVMe, mechanical drive, solid state drive, flash drive, memory card, if it can hold it, acronis will back up to it or clone it. So. All right. So we're good there. Now, let me show you what happens if we turn on rapid mode, just to give you an idea. We talk about caching. So what rapid mode is going to do is it's going to cache frequently used files. So if we go back to the main menu up here, which is under, where was it? Let's get that out of here. Let's turn rapid mode on. And it needs to restart the computer once it does this. There we go, we're gonna restart. Then we're gonna do that performance test again, and you're gonna see some outrageous numbers. Now, if you don't understand what a cache is, you'll say, those numbers are fake. They're not fake. Those numbers apply when you're reloading the same files over and over. And a lot of gameplay loads the same DLL files, for example. And it could make a real difference in how quickly things load. It's not, cache is not an illusion. It can improve performance. In some cases it does, and in some cases it doesn't. It shouldn't make anything worse though. But if it does, you can always turn rapid mode off. So here we've restarted now with rapid mode on, and we're going to run the same performance test again. And I want you to see the difference in the numbers and what caching can do. Think of caching like this. Let me start the test and then I'll explain. These are our previous numbers. I want you to remember these numbers, okay? Take a moment and remember what these numbers are, because your mind is about to get blown. Here we go. If you're asking me a complex mathematical equation, what's 6 times 3 divided by 4 plus 2, you know, I don't know, whatever. And I do the math and I give you your answer. It takes me a minute to do the math. And you ask me another complex question, mathematical question, and you go back and ask me the same mathematical question you started with, I have to recalculate it out again. But if I save the answer, that would be like a cache. So if I made a note that this mathematical equation equals this, in case you ask it again, I don't have to recomputate that sum or that result. So now when you ask me that same mathematical question, I immediately go and I look at my list and I go, yeah, I already answered that one. Here's your answer. And I give you the answer faster. That's not an illusion. That's cache. There is such a thing as having too much cache. There is such a thing that your list gets so long that it takes you longer to look through the list to see if you already have it than to just go and recalculate it again. So cache is one of those things like everything. Too little's not good, too much is not good. You really want to have the modicum amount of cache to do its job optimally so that you see a difference in performance. And that's the most basic way I can explain it in the most plain English terms that I think everybody can easily understand. And so there's nothing fake or illusion about it. There's been a lot of people that I've had contact me that don't understand the concept of what a cache is. It's completely different from numbers that lie about performance numbers. They're not lying. They're real, given that circumstance. Okay, so if you're loading a bunch of different files all the time, you're not going to see a benefit of the cache. If you're loading the same files over and over again, and you may not be aware that you're doing it, it's what you're asking your operating system to do. So the only way you're really going to know if it benefits you is if it's an option for you, and you have more than 8 gigs of RAM, turn it on. If you don't notice any difference, leave it on or turn it off. It's up to you. There's no right or wrong answer here. But that's what it is, and you should be aware of what it does and how it works. And we're just about done with the performance test, and watch the read and write numbers. They're about to change, and they are accurate. Bingo. Now look at our read and writes and our IOPs. Look at this. It's entirely different. So under certain circumstances, this is what your read and write speeds can be with cache enabled. Without cache enabled, you'll never see these kind of speeds. So anyway, I hope that clears up any confusion about cache and how cache works. And we can move on now with the rest of the build. Oh, I want to make sure we see all 32 gigs of RAM. So let's just go into the control panel, and we'll go to System, and let's make sure. Yeah, 32 gigs right there. I haven't activated this copy of Windows yet because I knew I was going to be changing some hardware, and I don't want to have to go through another reactivation. You can run Windows in trial mode indefinitely, but after 30 days you'll get a watermark in the bottom corner that says your Windows is not activated. And it won't go away, but it won't prevent you from getting any work done. It won't allow you to do some customizations to Windows, like changing wallpaper and icons and stuff. There's certain limitations that non-activated Windows has, but nothing that prevents the operating system from running. So you can run Windows 10 without activation indefinitely if you don't mind the watermark and you don't mind those minor limitations of personalization. Other than that, you do have 30 days without the watermark, again without the personalization, to go ahead and activate. And then once you've activated, you should never need your product key ever again. Anytime you reinstall Windows on the same hardware, you don't enter a product key. Once it's done, it goes back to Windows servers. It recognizes your particular hardware configuration. Even if you have the same hardware configuration as somebody else, you have different serial numbers. And what's called a hash ID is made up that's unique to your computer. Even if you have 10 identical computers, they all have different serial numbers. Therefore, they have different hash codes. And then Microsoft says, oh, I recognize this hash code because you activated it with this product key. So I'm going to go ahead and reactivate you again, and you don't have to do a thing. And I will demonstrate that in a future quick tips video. So that's really useful. It's a great feature. But it also means trying to install an activated copy of Windows 10 on different hardware. That ain't going to happen. You're going to have to buy another copy of Windows 10, or you may have to call Microsoft and talk to them and see if they will allow you to reactivate. Okay, so I hope that answers questions on that. You can activate Windows. Someone's asking if can you activate it after the 30 days. Microsoft will let you activate it 10 years from now, right? You can be in trial mode for 10 years. Activating it means you're paying money. Is Microsoft ever going to say, don't give us money? Of course not. So when you pay the money and get your product code, you can activate your Windows when you do that. Until you do that, Windows will indefinitely run in a trial mode. And after 30 days, you'll get a watermark that is a constant reminder to you that you have not activated. So that's how that works. All right, now with that done, let's go ahead and shut this back down. Very good. And let's get the hard drive installed. So let me just close this here and turn this around. And here's the Western Digital 6 terabyte. It's the performance drive, the Western Digital Black. They package it like a bag of chips. I was a little disappointed there's no chips in here. Well, there kind of is. That was bad, right? All right, anyway, 6 terabyte, cracked me up. All right, and let's get the drive tray. Remember, I took the drive tray out to have room to reach into the power supply. So I better make sure I've got all the cables I'm gonna need right now on the back of this power supply. And it looks like I'm gonna need a SATA cable plugged in here to power the hard drive, and that's the last cable I will need. So we'll go to the bag of modular power supply cables that came with our power supply. Oh, we're also gonna need to power the graphics card when it arrives, so we'll need to pull a graphics power cord, which is these red ones, and plug that in. I'm glad I remembered that. And yeah. So here we go. This is our SATA cable. And this is always a fun thing to do when you have a power supply shroud and you have to work around anything that's installed down in here to find the right plug-in, which in this case is, oh, it's perfect. It's right here at the end. Couldn't ask for it to be in a better position. That's why I always start towards the inside and work my way out, because as you add cables, it gets harder and harder to get deeper in there. And then we'll go ahead and hook up the power for the video card right now, because like I said, when I put this hard drive tray in, it's going to restrict how much room I have between my hand and the back of the power supply, so it's easier to get at it now. So this end here, that says, well, this end says PCIe, that's going to go to the back of the power supply, and then these two that are close together, those go to the video card. And the connectors are also red. That's clever. So it's really easy to find them on the back. The plug and the connectors are both red. I'd like to see more power supply manufacturers adopt a color code technique. I guess some people don't like the different colors because it messes with their color scheme of their case, the aesthetics of the case. But if you've got a shroud, it's hiding it all anyway, of course, except where it plugs into the graphics card. This may be unsightly to some people. But they make pills for that now, just saying. All right, so I really don't want to set this down on its glass. I said glass. So I'm going to take the glass door off again, because I'm a little worried about marking it up. Come on. Come on. Sometimes you just wiggle and lift. Wiggle and lift. Sometimes you have to give it a little motivation. Come on. Let's go. It's not being cooperative. The good news is it's not going to fall off on its own. You don't have to worry about that happening. So, I got a message last night from the person who's buying this computer, and their computer literally just broke last night, and they were not happy. So we'll bring that one in and do a diagnostic on it after we get this one delivered. I think, maybe. I think it's a video card, just needs a video card swap. I don't know if I'll bring it back for that or if I'll just do it on site. Plug this. I'm struggling here. Come on. Why are you being so difficult? I don't want to go in the cart. Don't be such a baby. There it goes. Finally. All right, let me just put this away. I'll put it over here. Whew, worked up a sweat on that one. All right. Whew. All right, now to put the drive tray in, it looks like there's 2 locations for the drive tray to go. Let's lay this down. This is the way I wanted it initially, because I've got to get to these holes here on the bottom of the case for the drive tray. It looks like the drive tray could be mounted either in this hole here or this one. This one obviously gets us a little further away from the back of the power supply, which is what I want. You'd want to be closer to the power supply if you installed, say, a liquid cooler up front. That's why they allow it to move, depending on how you configure the case, what your needs and configurations are. So now with these cables all in the way, this will be a little bit of a trick. So I don't want to trap any of the cables. Go. And then the screws are right here. I've kept them out. Remember, there were 6 of them that held that in. So let me get my cordless driver out here. Oh, I feel popular today. All right. Where is it? Should be right there. There we go. Oh, you know what? Am I putting this in the right side up? Yeah, I am. Okay. You want to make sure you put your hard drive tray in the right way. You might find it difficult to get the caddies in and out. They only come out on one side. All right. Two more. That's it. That installs the caddy back in. So when we bring this back up, you'll see now why I put those cables in while the tray was out. Because I can still get a hand in there, but it's much, much tighter now. Okay. All right. Do we have any questions at this point before I continue? Carey's using a sonic screwdriver. No, I'm not. This is a sonic screwdriver. Will it work? Seems to be okay. Which doctor is that from? Can you name the doctor? Nerds, you're all a bunch of nerds. You're my people. All right, here we go. Back to installing a hard drive. We can put the hard drive either in the top or the bottom tray. There's no right or wrong answer. I think for cable management purposes, wait, let me look at it again. I'm gonna put it on the top tray. Yeah, I think the I think the cooling's gonna be better there. So we're gonna just set the drive in the tray. Ooh, it is grabbing the drive. So I said it was toolless, but I'm sorry, I complained it wasn't toolless yesterday, which it is not for 2.5-inch drives, but it appears to be toolless for 3.5-inch drives. The caddy has little nubs that go into where the screws would normally go. And you have to sort of bend the caddy a bit to get those nubs into the mounting holes. One's just not going. How about now? There. Hard drive is in the tray, no tools. Thank goodness that is toolless. And then the drive will just slide right into its slot and it will lock into position right here. See that? It's locked in. Not the most secure lock, by the way, but when the back panel goes on, it's got nowhere to go. It's certainly not going to go forward. It can't. Not only is the power supply shroud in the way, but the actual hard drive cage itself prevents that from occurring. So the only way it can come out is this way. And with the metal panel on it, it can only move about 1 inch. It's not going anywhere. I would feel better if I had a screw to secure that drive. I'm not sure if no, there's no way because the power supply shroud is in the way. So that's the drive installation, and now we can grab a SATA power cable, which is one of those cables I just plugged in right here, and give it some power. I'll just use the end connector just to keep it simple for right now. And then in the motherboard box, yeah, see that? See, by wiggling it, it's already come out. There, it's in now. In the motherboard box, I've got the SATA cables, so let me grab one of those now. Here we go. Look at it, it's like Christmas in here. There is a right-angled connector. There's one of these SATA cables that has a single right-angled connector. And those are really useful if you're going to be up against the side of a case and you don't want the connector jutting out and potentially hitting it. The downside is that it comes out the wrong way. We need it to immediately go up, but that's okay. I just wish they would design it with the cable facing up. And now we can, yeah, see, it's already, it just keeps coming out of there. I wish it would secure better than that. Anyway, let's go right up through here, and we're going to plug it in to our SATA ports, which are located right here. These are our 6 SATA ports. We're probably using, I have no doubt, we're using a SATA port here on the SATA M.2, which is going to use one of the ports. I don't know which one. It states in the manual. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an educated guess, which is just another word for saying guess. I'm trying to read the board to see if it states which SATA port is which. Doesn't tell me, but here's one way we can find out. It honestly doesn't matter which port you plug it into as long as it's not the one in use here. So I'm going to guess it's the bottom one on the top. So did that make sense? The bottom one on the top. There's 2 connectors, 2 connectors, 2 connectors. One towards the motherboard tray and one on top of it. Generally, a good board design will always have the first drive, the lowered number being towards the motherboard tray, because if the lower number is above it and you only have one, it blocks the ability to plug another drive in behind it without unplugging it first. So that's just bad engineering as far as I'm concerned. Let's find out which way MSI did this. I could just read the manual, but that's too boring. I'd rather do it this way and find out for myself. And what we'll do is we'll just, we'll go into the BIOS and we'll see which port it's plugged into. The BIOS will tell us. Got me? You got me? You get me, bruv? All right, I'm in a weird mood today. What's new? Here we go. Delete, 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 delete. I got it. Yeah, I got it. Storage. It says we are in M.2 slot 1. Ports 5 and 6 are not available, and nothing is present. So I've got it in the wrong slot. So I'm going to go to the opposite side. This may be 5 and 6 on the top, and down below maybe 1 and 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just shut this back off by hitting the switch on the back of the power supply, right there. Wait for the fans to stop. And I'm going to reach in and I'm simply going to unplug the SATA cable from the top connector. We're going to put it on the bottom connector closest to the motherboard and see if that is recognizable there. Here we go, one more time, power back on. And delete, 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 delete. Just keep hitting that delete key over and over again. Come on. All right, go back down to storage. There, that is correct. That is the slot we wanted it in, is the very bottom right down here. Let me see if I can get you a little close-up of that. So here is what the deal was. If we look closely at the motherboard, these are our 6 SATA connectors. 5 and 6 are currently disabled. I was plugged into the top one, which on ASUS and Gigabyte are usually 0 and 1, and instead it's down here. But that's how I found. I could have read the book. I could have read the book. Or I could have done it that way. And let's face it, I'd rather do than read, unless I'm reading a novel. Reading an instruction manual just isn't the page turner you think you would hope it would be. Wonder how this is going to end. All right. So with that done, let me reset the computer. Do we even have a reset on here? I wonder where the reset button is. I don't know. I'll just turn it off. And we're going to turn it back on so we can partition and format that drive. I'm going to show you how to partition and format a brand new hard drive. Remember, this is not a used hard drive. This is a brand new hard drive. So we're powering back on right now. We should see that on the screen here in just a moment. Here we go. It's going to boot into Windows, and we're going to go into the drive management part of Windows to create a partition and then format that partition. I believe you should only have one partition. The operating system can create as many as it wants, but when you're adding drives, the reason we used to partition in the 90s was pretty complex, and it involved cluster size and slack space. That doesn't apply anymore. Having partitions isn't any different than having folders, except that partitions limit your space. When you hit a wall, you'll have to repartition the drive again. If you just create a folder instead of a partition, you're separating out your data, or whatever it is you think getting a separate partition makes anything any easier for you. Do yourself a favor, one partition, learn to use folders. All right, that's my opinion, that's my recommendation, that's my advice, and it's worth whatever you paid for it. All right, now let's go here, down here in the search bar, and we're just going to type in drive manager right there. Oh, I got a sneeze coming on. Oh, that's device manager. Oh, excuse me. Told you. Let me do that again. We're going to go to disk management. Type DISK, and right here it says create and format hard disk partitions. That's just a shortcut doing what I did earlier with going to the control panel, administrative tools, computer management, disk management would eventually get me right here. It sees we've added a new drive. It automatically sees that. If you just stick with all the defaults here, you should be fine. So just click OK.
There's an unallocated drive. Right-click on it, click New Simple Volume, click Next, click Next, click Next. You can give it a name. We'll call it 6TB. We'll do a quick format. If you don't do a quick format, we're going to be here a long time. And click Next and finish. There it is, done. Now when we go to our system folder, when we look at our drives, we go to this PC, you'll see now we have the C drive and we have the D drive. The D is the mechanical we just added. I want to make sure indexing is turned off. Just wastes a lot of space. So we'll turn off indexing, click OK, click OK. And we already turned off indexing here previously, right? Yes, we did. Very good. All right. Shut it back down. And we'll go back to the main camera. Now, Gesundheit, thank you. All right, so if anybody has any questions, now's a good time to ask. I'm gonna let the computer cool down for just a minute, and we're gonna swap out the 2400G CPU for the 2700X, but I don't think this has built-in video, does it? So I won't be able to fire up the machine once I do this until the GPU arrives. So right now, I'm stalling. Here's what the box looks like for the 2700X. It includes the, what is it called? The Wraith Spire cooler, something like that. Ben Fitzpatrick has contributed $7. He says, I love the build, Carey. It looks badass. Thanks for your helpful videos. You rule. Oh, thank you, Ben. Thank you so much. Look at that. Supporting financially and emotionally. That's awesome. There's information on the top of the box with regards to details on the CPU. Discrete graphics card is required. Yes, it is. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's open the box and see what's in here. Looks just like the other box, doesn't it? There's our chip and Go Faster sticker. Now this is the cooler you guys warned me about yesterday. You said this mounts not with screws, but with clips. I hope you're wrong. I really hope you're wrong. I got a sneaky suspicion you're not. This is my lack of familiarity with the AMD chip lineup. I wish they would be consistent. I really do. I really, really do. One of the things that throws me right off is the square CPU cover. That, sometimes AMD coolers are round, these are square. Oh, and it has clips. It's got those darn clips. That sucks. Oh, that sucks. So you buy the cheaper CPU and you get the superior mounting mechanism for the cooler. You buy the more expensive high-end CPU and you get the old inferior 1990 style clips. Oh, AMD, what are we gonna do with you, huh? Well, do know that you don't have to use this cooler. You can buy a third-party cooler. But at the end of the day, what matters is how well does it work. We've got thermal compound on the bottom of that, which we want to keep protected by leaving the cover on. And this is an RGB cable that connects to the motherboard so you can control the RGB lighting through the motherboard software. And then there's a USB cable where apparently you can also control the RGB lighting through some software, apparently. And then they're going to plug in here on the sides. Wow, another big contribution from Frederick Lundholm, 1,000 Swedish kroner. Again, that's about 111 US dollars. So thank you so much, Frederick. You're very generous. What do you think about AMD's 7 nanometer CPU? You know what? A lot of people are making a pretty big deal over the technology, the size of the transistors used in the dies, and it's naturally going to be shrinking as it has since they first created the CPU, the very first one. We've consistently been shrinking it down and shrinking it down. Intel's having a hard time hitting that. I think NVIDIA's already doing 7, aren't they, on their graphics cards? And AMD doesn't even make their own chips. They contract that out to like global foundries. You see, the world's reaching a point now where anybody can design anything. You don't have to have the money to finance your own tooling factory. You can be a factory and have companies like AMD hire you, Or you can be a company like AMD where you hire the engineers to design it and then you contract out for the lowest bidder to manufacture it. So you still need money, but you don't need anywhere near as much. So anybody can literally become a manufacturer, literally or figuratively, in the sense that Linksys doesn't make any routers. Linksys designs them. They contract out to probably a Chinese manufacturer. They say, we want it built to these specifications. And we need, they predict how many units they're going to sell, and then they predict how many units they're going to replace under warranty. Remember, they don't repair anything under warranty. It gets replaced. When a unit comes in for an RMA, those often get sold off to yet another company who will try to refurbish them and then sell them again. Sometimes the manufacturer does their own refurbishment, but it's not common. Usually they just offload them really cheap to a third party, and that third party will refurbish them. So I just picked up for my wife, she's got an old LG G3 cell phone. And I didn't want to get her into a contract with another cell phone company. She's with Walmart's month-to-month Straight Talk service. So I went on to Amazon, I did a search for refurbished Samsung Galaxy S8, and they're about $340. It's a pretty good price. It's guaranteed, Amazon backs it up. Came in the mail. I go to Walmart and I buy the SIM card pack for the Straight Talk. It's got 3 SIM cards in it because they don't know what kind of phone you've got, CDMA, GSM, whatever. Ultimately, whatever SIM card fits in your phone, that's the service you're going to use. So one SIM card goes to AT&T, one SIM card goes to T-Mobile, and one SIM card goes to Sprint, I guess is what it is. Thankfully, hers was with T-Mobile because the Sprint service here is terrible. So anyway, it's interesting that we live in a time where these perfectly good SIM cards that have been manufactured and programmed get thrown into the trash because you're only going to use one of the 3. And transferring her phone was super easy because she was going from Straight Talk to Straight Talk. As soon as I put the SIM card in, and you do that with the phone off, you put the SIM card in, you turn the phone on, it says you've got a voicemail. The voicemail says, okay, you want to activate your phone? Yes. So are you getting a new phone number or are you transferring a phone number? Transferring a phone number. What are the last 4 digits of the, I don't know, the IMEI code or something? Like, I don't know. It says dial the word FOUR to 611-611, text it, and it'll reply back with that 4-digit code. So you do that on the existing phone. It comes back and I type it in. And it says, now put in the serial number on the SIM card. That's written on the part of the pamphlet that has the SIM card you've used. And I enter that, it's like a 16-digit code, and it says, okay, it should take a few minutes to a few hours. When your current phone stops working, turn your new phone off and back on again, and it should start working. And it did. It was one of the easiest transfers I've ever done. So that's out there just so you guys know. And now she pays, I think it's $45 a month plus whatever the taxes are, which is what she's been paying. And she's got a far superior phone. You know, I got her the wireless QI charger and a little protective case for it. And me, when my Sprint contract runs out, I'm leasing this phone. They're trying to get me to upgrade to the new S9. It's not a big difference between an S8 and an S9. And the Sprint service is horrible, horrible. I'm so regretting going to Sprint. I don't care what the commercials say, the service sucks. T-Mobile appears to be a lot better. Verizon's really good, but Verizon's too expensive. So anyway, how have I done for stalling? Am I doing pretty good for stalling? Have I kept you interested in a completely off-topic discussion? Frederick Ledholm again has contributed 100 Swedish krona. He says, you are an Intel fan. Yeah, I'm an Intel fan. I've worked at Intel. I've used Intel consistently throughout the years. Intel has been very consistent in what to expect from their chips, the power consumption. The coolers do vary, as they do with AMD, with regards to how good they are. In general, the fans that come with i3s and i5s are adequate. They're fine. They don't need to be replaced. The fans that come with the i7, those should be replaced. They're just too darn loud. They don't work very well. They're underpowered for the CPU. So one might argue that part of my issue with AMD is my lack of familiarity with their product lineup. That's absolutely true. Absolutely true. So anyway, yeah, the Intel chips generally, like all my business clients have had Intel and they don't want to experiment with anything else. I've offered AMD to them and they go, you know what? We know Intel, we're familiar with Intel. We don't want to experiment. We don't want to try somebody else. So it saves us $100. It's not worth $100 to us. And I'm like, it's probably going to be fine. You're not really going to know the difference. And he said, yeah, but you said the word probably. I said, well, I can't guarantee anything. Well, we know what to expect from experience with Intel. Now, is that fair? Nobody cares about fair. It's their money and they spend it how they want to spend it. I'm there to provide a service to them. Most of my clients request Intel. And I don't have a problem recommending and building Ryzen. Clients just don't want it. They simply don't want it. And as a result, I work a lot more with Intel. As you're well aware, or maybe you're not, the streaming computer that I'm broadcasting to you on is a Ryzen 7 1700. And I also ordered a Ryzen 7 2700X that I'm going to upgrade the streaming computer. As you may be aware, the motherboard is having some issues where my USB randomly connects and disconnects, and it's really annoying. My issue with AMD, going all the way back, has never been with the chips. It's been with the motherboards. It feels like the motherboards just aren't as solid as Intel boards. I don't have these USB connection problems with Intel boards. Is it coincidence? I don't think it is. I think the chipsets that are used are just inferior for whatever reason on the AMD side of things. I also see more frequent updates from Intel on the chipset side than I see from AMD. But these are things I see. So am I choosing to see it that way? I really don't know because I don't work enough with AMD. But I will tell you, this board on the streaming computer is driving me out of my mind with the constant alerts and sounds that USB is connected, disconnected, connected, disconnected. I thought it was the card reader. Well, when I removed the card reader, the problem went away. I sent the card reader in to AFT. It's an expensive card reader. AFT replaced it, and we're right back to where we were again. So it's definitely the board. I'm also getting notifications that I'm plugging headphones or something into the front panel, and I'm not. And I'm assuming that's the panel itself. But now I'm thinking it's the motherboard. So what I did is I ordered a 2700X and a new motherboard. And I'm going to put that into the streaming computer, and I'll just record it on the camera and broadcast it later. And it'll broadcast out live, but it'll be pre-recorded when I do it. And then I'm going to create an RMA for this board and send it back. And when it comes back, I'll put the Ryzen 7 1700 back in it and probably use one of the Silverstone cases and slap it in there and I'll sell it. But I'm going to test it, make sure it's good. I'm sure once it's good, it'll probably be good for a long, long time. But that's been my experience between Intel and AMD. And it's always been a board issues that occur on the AMDs that I just don't see on Intel boards. So I don't know enough about it to explain exactly what's going on there. But percentage-wise, this is one of the first AMDs I built, and I'm already out of the gate with a problem. So you know what they say about first impressions, right? I'm not real happy about that. Now, on the same token, I have built other AMDs that are working fine. I just happen to be the lucky one. So, yeah. If you're wondering why I've got that attitude, that's why. But as you can see, the streaming computer is running great. You don't hear it. It's perfectly silent. It's just those darn random USB connection disconnect and Fred headphone jack. Now, it's possible that the headphone jack, we could have two problems here. We could have a front panel that's doing this alert with the headphone jack. And it's entirely possible it's the front panel causing the USB problem, but it doesn't explain why when I removed the card reader, the USB problem went away. So this is the only way I'm going to know, is by replacing the board. And since I'm replacing the board, I'm going to go ahead and upgrade the CPU. You simply can't have too much power on a video editing machine. Then I'll have to probably reactivate some software, and then hopefully those problems will be resolved. If the USB connect and disconnect continues, then I know I've got a bad front case panel, because that'll be the only part remaining that is USB related. That's it. That's all there is to that diagnostic. And based on that, we'll determine, I'll give it a week to see if the USB problem is gone. And if it is, I'm gonna go ahead and create the RMA with Gigabyte, because that is I think a 3-year warranty pretty much industry standard on all motherboards is 3 years, to the best of my knowledge, at least from the big four, which is Gigabyte, Asus, ASRock, and MSI. What is UAC? User Account Control. You can Google that for more information. Who makes the streaming board? That's Gigabyte. Gigabyte makes it. I think. Now you got me curious. It's been a long time since I built it. Let me pull up the specs on it just to double check. But I'm pretty sure it's a Gigabyte board. Where's my utility software at? I'll tell you exactly what it is. Yeah, it's an AX370 Gaming CF Gigabyte motherboard. So Gigabyte AX370 Gaming, C like Charlie, F like Frank. We're with BIOS F23. That's a lot of BIOS updates, by the way, which is not a good sign. And we're running 32 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, which is G-Skill. 2400, so it's got extreme memory profile on. Running a GTX 1080 in here. And the CPU is a Ryzen 7 1700 running fully stock. PJ Martin's contributed $5 Canadian. He says, great live stream yesterday and again today. Keep up the good work, Carey. Thank you, PJ. Thanks for supporting the channel. Chris Cooper's contributed £2. Hey, thank you, Chris. Chris says, Intel audits the chipsets on third-party boards, and it's free for all. AMD used to be good, but they literally send out specs to board partners, and that's all they do. And that's the problem, right? Because if you don't audit the manufacturer, that's how the whole leaking capacitor plague started. I suppose at this point, my biggest claim to fame, my biggest accomplishment in the world at this point isn't writing the book and it's not hosting the radio show. It's being one of the first people in media to publicly bring attention to the leaking capacitor issue. And that set off a whole bunch of class action lawsuits. And the manufacturers all claimed pretty much the same thing. The manufacturers said, look, we contracted out to the manufacturer in China to build this board to our specs. Without our knowledge, they bought inferior products to save money to increase their profit line. It's like, I don't care. I mean, if you hired somebody to kill somebody, you're still responsible for it, even though you didn't pull the trigger. So these manufacturers like to use contractors as scapegoats by saying it wasn't us. Marketing, companies will do that with their marketing. You'll get a bunch of spam and you contact the company and they'll say, that's not us, that's an affiliate marketer. Well then, if you can't audit your affiliates, shut your affiliate program down. It's not an excuse to break the laws. It's like companies do this knowingly and willfully to break the law. It's a loophole. They go, it's not us, it's our contractor. They had a bus driver for the city of Phoenix who was texting while he was driving the bus. Somebody filmed it on their phone and they alerted the news. And the news said to Valley Metro, the company that runs the bus service, that's not our driver. He's contracted out through another company. It's just a way of waiving any liability. It's a way of not having to offer the employee any benefits, any sick time, any holiday pay. I hope I see it in my lifetime where the laws for contractors and the liabilities within become more like that of employees to discourage the use of contractors. That's why we've lost so many tech support jobs to India. How many times have you ever called technical support and talked to somebody with a foreign accent on the other end of the phone? That's because of what contracting does for companies' profit margins. It does little for the consumer, and it waives a lot of liabilities. It allows them to break the law and claim no responsibility, and it is shameful, this behavior. Be aware of it. That's all I'm saying. Just be aware that that's what corporate America is doing right now, and I hope to see Congress do something about this. And likewise, people can rent out an office space. And I've talked about this before. You may get letters from companies with very prestigious addresses. But if you go to the address, whether it's Beverly Hills or Wall Street or here, the Biltmore, you'll find it's nothing more than a postal mail drop. There's actually not an office there. Or in the case that I went to one, it represents about 200 companies. Like if you Google the address of this questionable company, a bunch of other companies come up. They all go to the same address. And what you're able to do is to trick people into thinking you're that successful that you can afford this prestigious property in this very expensive part of town. And you can even rent a conference room in the building so you can make an appointment with your client and say, I'll meet you there at 1 o'clock, rent the conference room for an hour. You know, you call up the mail drop company and you go, yeah. And they have a desk, like a secretary desk. So when somebody walks in the door, they see that receptionist, and you'll be there in the conference room waiting for them, giving the customer the illusion that that's your building, that's your receptionist, when in fact, it's all an illusion. And so Googling addresses to questionable companies can be very revealing. So just a little tip for you from your Uncle Carey. Oh, by the way, you can do the same thing. You can go and get one of these addresses in Wall Street or Beverly Hills or the Biltmore for a relatively modicum amount of monthly fee. It's really not any different than buying a P.O. box. It really isn't. It's just people look at the address and they go, wow, you must be doing really well. Yeah. All right. So at this point, I'm sort of at a, this all happened much faster than I thought it was going to happen, if I'm honest. I was really hoping that through this process, my doorbell would ring and I'd have a GPU. Whenever the GPU arrives, it's now ready to be installed. It's going to go right there, and we've already got the cable run for it. In fact, we can go ahead and run the cable up through there right now, just because we can. It's something to do. So we'll take this cable, and we should be able to run it. Let's see, how am I going to do this? What I'm trying to do is feed the cable up through this slot right here. Oh, you know what? This one's actually better. It's a little closer, a little easier to get to. So I'm going to bring it up right through here. There we go. So that'll plug into our graphics card right up here, and we'll feed the rest of it back down. And the cable management, as you can tell, is going to be fantastic on this case. It's going to look really nice. Paul's contributed $10. He says, thanks for spending time and money to evaluate AMD chips. I hope that fixes the streaming system. Yeah, me and you both. Me and you both. Frederick Lundholm has again contributed 1,000 Swedish krona. He says, don't listen to what you are. No, you is not from 3 years ago. Common carry, don't look the one way. I think what he's saying is the past with AMD is not applying to the current AMD. But remember, I'm being guided by my customers, right? So if my customers say they want Intel, it doesn't matter why. That's my job. If you were at a restaurant and you wanted to order a meal, as a server, it's my job to bring you that meal, not to talk you out of it, not to tell you it's bad for you. That's not my job. Not to say this is a better value. So if you do that, you're going to upset your customers. You're probably not going to be in business very long. Obviously, AMD is not making a horrible chip or they'd be bankrupt. And Intel needs to have the competition. They must have it. Otherwise, they can charge whatever they want and slow down their innovation, right? So AMD keeps the fire lit. But where I really fall disappointed with AMD is that they're not leading the way, they're following Intel. I want to see AMD lead. I want to see AMD come out with a lower power, cooler chip that runs faster. That's what I want to see from AMD. And so far, all AMD has ever done is kept up. And it's not enough to keep up. That's all AMD has ever done. The only time AMD surpassed Intel was on the AMD Athlon XP processors, and I sold a ton of those. And then they've lost the lead ever since. And I want to see AMD get the lead back. And the Ryzen architecture is supposed to allow for that kind of evolution. I wish they could get there faster. Ryzen 2 is a lot better than the original Ryzen. What's Ryzen 3 going to be like? Will Ryzen 3 finally dethrone Intel? One can only hope. So, I'm hearing a lot of noise outside. Let me just check and see. Hello. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay! It's arrived. Look at that. Could I have timed that any better? I don't think I could have. Let's get it open. Dun, 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 dun. Good boys. Good boys. Orlando Breve has contributed $4.99. He says, keep up the good work and a belated happy Thanksgiving. Well, thank you. Oh, Mara's happy. Apparently very happy. Okay. All right, so everybody's watching. We have there was 740 people watching. I want to remind you as you're watching the video, if you're liking what you see, hit that thumbs up button there below the video. That lets other people know that the video's worth watching. And then, of course, if you want to be alerted to whenever new content is posted, always subscribe. And after you hit the subscribe button, click that little bell icon over there and let it tell you how you have to tell it that you want to be notified. So if you don't do the bell icon after subscribing, you may not get the notifications for when I go live. There's no real pattern to when I go live at this time. It's just whenever time allows. I hope in 2019 to treat this more like a job where I have working hours, so you guys will at least know some sort of schedule, like, you know, every Tuesday at 1 o'clock I'll go. I haven't figured it out yet, but until that time, that's how you can know. So it's you hit the subscribe button, you see the bell icon, and you hit that, it's over here, hit this bell icon and turn the notifications on. If you don't turn the notifications on, you don't get notifications. Okay. You have no idea how many hours my sister worked to create those graphics. You would have no idea how many hours it takes to make something so simple. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and get the CPU out of here. We'll unplug it, and let's disconnect all power. I don't want to do yourself a favor and unplug all power. You don't want any surprises. Well, looks like I missed a contribution that just came in. Yes, Vasil Savilov has contributed $2. He says, hello from Mesa, Arizona. What do you think about Dark Rock 4? I don't. All I can tell you is about parts that I've used. The parts that I use are what people pay for. So if there's anything specifically you want to see me review or you know, you want my opinion on it, you'll have to send it to me or have me build you a machine. Everything you see on my channel is real. There's no point in trying to evaluate something or give it any sort of review if your review doesn't matter. In other words, if a company sends me a product, I review it and send it back, which is often how it works. I really don't know what it's like to live with the product day to day. I don't know what sort of problems could crop up, what the support is like, is the company responsive? Are they quick? Are they gonna look for excuses? Are they gonna be cooperative? So there's a big difference between what I do and what other tech YouTube channels do. When this computer is built, this is going to a real customer and they're gonna rely on this computer. Like, if it goes down, within seconds I will get a phone call. That's how important this computer is. And while they are using it for gaming, they're also using it for work, and they are a boss at work. And they have responsibilities, and their computer is their connection to work when they're not at the office. So there is literally a panic when this goes down. Now the customer does have a laptop to fall back on, but it's nowhere near as fast, it's nowhere near as easy to use, and obviously when you got a rig like this, you want to use it. So these other tech channels that review product, they don't have any liability. They don't have any consequences to whether their review is positive or negative to anybody but themselves. The only person they could possibly hurt is their own bottom line, not somebody else's. And when you're responsible for somebody else's bottom line, it's different. If you fix cars, like you fix your own car, it's no big deal. If you didn't fix it right and it breaks down, you're the one that's gonna walk home. But when you're fixing a fire truck or an ambulance, and that fire truck or ambulance fails on the way to or from an emergency, how seriously would you take your job? All right, let's get the CPU out of here. An electric screwdriver is not the best tool for this purpose, but I'm trying to be quick. It's on there really good. Sometimes that thermal compound can be like glue, so we're gonna go ahead and set this back down again. So, oh, there goes the back plate. So we definitely have all the screws out. So now it's just a matter of sort of gently wiggling. Don't get a screwdriver, don't pry it. You just want to grab the heatsink, wiggle it left and right while lifting on it, and it will come up. You definitely don't want to pull the CPU out of the closed socket. And in this case, the thermal compound looks adequate. Remember the last time I pulled one of these off, I thought that the thermal compound was a bit thin. And here it looks a lot better. It's still, in my opinion, it's still a little bit thin, but it seems better than it was. Let me give you a close-up on that and show you what that looks like. I think that these AMD stock fans need more thermal compound. I can see through that, but it's better than the last one was. I'd like to see so much on there that you can't read through it. Now I understand some of it's come off onto the bottom of the cooler. I get that, and there's plenty there. So I think it's pretty good, but it could have been a little more. Wouldn't have hurt anything to have a little bit more. So let me wipe that off and get it clean. And for that, I'm just going to grab a paper towel just to get the bulk of it off. Yeah, it just feels like I mean, barely any is coming. I mean, it's all that's collected on that. It's hardly any at all. So when I reuse this CPU, I'm going to have to put thermal paste back on it. But I think we should be putting thermal compound on these manually. Like on this cooler here, where we've on this cooler right here, where we've got the compound pre-applied. I think it's too thin. I think I'm going to wipe it clean and put my own on there, just to be safe. It just seems like AMD is not putting enough thermal compound on their coolers. It's awfully thin. All right, now we can open this up. Now, once again, I would do this laying down. I've got the case right side up so you can see what I'm doing. We're going to just go ahead and pull that up, and it'll kind of click. I want to hold on to this so it doesn't fall out. There it goes. You heard it click. And we want to be careful not to bend any of the pins on that CPU. So there's our CPU. Just set this down. I can adjust the camera again. Whoop, there we are. We do have some on the sides, some thermal compound. But it's definitely awfully thin in my book. What do you think, Mara? Should I change the thermal compound out or not? It's your computer. You tell me. I'm going to just clean the rest off of this one. There's just not much on there at all. Well, at least some's coming off. Yes, replace it. Good. Good answer. So this and this we'll put back in its box for another build, for another day. Keep that with the RAM. This is what the CPU looks like in its package. Get this opened up. And again, you would want to do this ideally with the case facing down, but just so you guys can see, we're just going to keep it in the same orientation it was in. Don't force it in the socket. It should sit very gently right into the socket, and then close the lid or the latch, and that locks it in place. And that just upgraded our CPU from the 2400G now to the 2700X, just that simply. Now I have to put those little brackets on that I took off and threw away when I took them back out of the trash. The can was empty, so it was fine. It's no big deal. And we'll go ahead and put this back plate that came, this is the back plate that goes back here. We got to put that back on because it fell off. That's what you heard hit the counter a moment ago. And in the motherboard box, I've got those little brackets in here somewhere. Oh, put them in a bag. This does require a third hand, by the way. This is a difficult thing to do with one person because you've got to hold the back plate in. Make sure you put the right clip on the right side. Yeah, see, that's not going to stay. Okay, maybe I can do it like this. Let's see if this will work. Not a good start. It's not a good start. Oh, why was I cursed with only having two hands? There we go. Probably would make it difficult to buy gloves. I might have to lay the case down to do this. No, the back plate's coming out. All right. All right. Just one more lovely side effect of working with AMD is this darn back plate. Every chip manufacturer's got its pros and its cons. And I'm quick to point out the cons on this chip because it's all new to me. I've never had, I always take these brackets off. I never put them on. I've never had to put them back on. And I can't believe AMD is still using these kind of brackets for their high-end cooler on a high-end chip, and that the low-end chip comes with a better secured cooler. Don't understand that. There's one. Now where did the other screw go? Hold on a second, let me pick this back up. Oh, there it is. Now, truth be told, at the end of the day, whether it's me or anybody else, if you're building an AMD or an Intel system, an end user can't tell them apart. Not without some sort of software telling them. You know, whether it's benchmark software, specification, identity, asset software. Just by using the machine, I can't tell you if it's AMD or Intel. Life of Gaming with Doldor just contributed £2.50. Thank you. Did I miss anybody else? There's a long name to say. Frederick says, I want to speak to Carey on the phone. When you make contributions like that, Frederick, we can work out something where we can talk on Skype. I want to make sure that people that support me have access to me 100%. I just have to find the time for it. Thank you for all your generosity, Frederick. I really appreciate it, truly. All right, let me get this other bracket back on now. This one should hold the bracket in place now that I have two screws in. That should save me a little effort there. So, here we go. That one's in. One more screw. Good. I'm going to just take this one back out, tighten it back down again. Perfect. All right, so our brackets are back in, as you can see. We can zoom in on that. You guys can get a better look at what's going on right there. These are the two brackets I just put on that one and that one. You always want to put them on with those little clips facing out. I just hope those things don't get brittle and break off as they have in past designs. These look a little different, they look better, but they're still plastic. We'll find out over time. Now this is a completely clean surface. I've been avoiding touching it. I want to keep the surface free of any contamination from dirt, oils from your skin, etc. So that's fine. But now this, on the other hand, the cooler, which we can go back now. We're going to wipe the rest of this stuff off the cooler. This compound, like I said, I find it to be inadequate. So we're going to apply our own compound here. Don't mix compounds. I know there was a video where a guy from a otherwise reputable source gave false information on that. And a very modicum amount of research would have verified not to do that. So clearly the person was lazy. Just because something works doesn't mean it's working optimally. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I see in the PC building community. And I see where people are putting things together, and it works and they don't know they did it wrong. I've had customers bring me machines they built themselves and they didn't have it configured right and it was running at half speed. You know, back in the day when you had to set your BIOS manually for the clock speed on the CPU, your multiplier, they would just stay with the default in the BIOS and their CPU would run at half speed. But it was so much faster than what they were upgrading from, they didn't know anything was wrong. So of course, after I fix it, whatever the problem was they brought it to me for, I fixed the BIOS and the machine's twice as fast. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like a new computer again. It's faster than it's ever been. All right, so I've got some denatured alcohol here and Q-tips, and we're gonna just clean the bottom of this heatsink off. We want it to be a mirror-like finish. Once again, if I just slap some thermal compound on there the way it is, it's gonna work. It's just not gonna cool as good as it would if the surface was completely free of any dirt, contaminants, previous thermal material. Remember, just because it works doesn't mean it's working optimally. And that's why it's important you have your RAM in the right sockets recommended by the motherboard manufacturer. And I don't know, I can't think of any other examples. Make sure your NVMe drive is in PCI Express ×4 mode. Samsung Magician software is great to verify that information if you have a Samsung drive. Otherwise, I guess you can just tell from performance. You can Google what sort of read and write numbers people are getting from their drive, and you should be in the same ballpark. You know, your numbers may not all be exactly the same, but you should be in the same range. So we're just going to keep cleaning this off. Nice copper bottom here. Duracell may be the copper top, but AMD is the copper bottom. Make your own jokes. I didn't go there. Did I? No, you went there. I didn't go there. No, nope. That is not what I was thinking. You thought it. Vasil Savilov has again contributed $2. Can I build my PC with you? I live in Arizona too. It's possible. Yeah, we'll have to talk and see what you want to build, when you want to build it. We'll have to talk to me about that. My email address, if you use the donate button at tech-vets.com and you send any sort of contribution there, I always respond with a thank you email, and you can respond to that email to get more information directly from me to discuss that possibility, because I enjoy having people come over and build computers with them. So there's a very good chance. But if you bought some really bad parts, I don't want to get involved. So we'll have to see what you got first. All right. I had one guy, he bought parts and he said, I already bought my parts, would you put it together for me? And I said, sure. And they were just horrible parts. It was really hard to put together. Then he got it and he wasn't happy with the orientation of the fan. He said, fan won't go on any other way. You pick those parts. And I never heard from him again. And I just reminded him, I did it for free. So, yeah, I won't do that again. The old expression that no good deed goes unpunished certainly held true. So I do have a certain standard with regards to what parts we're using, because it can, what you save in money, you spend in time. And just because you have the time doesn't mean I have the time. So anyway, enough of that. Now we can apply our thermal compound. Let me go back to my office and grab some. Now, there's really no right or wrong way as far as how much thermal compound you put on. You want full coverage over the surface of the CPU. So you don't apply your thermal compound to the heatsink. If it comes from the factory, like this heatsink did, that's fine. Then you would not apply any at all. You just plug the heatsink on there and you're good to go. We're going to replace the thermal compound because I don't like how much AMD is using. I think they're using too little. I've got some Arctic Silver 5 here that we'll use. There's really no difference in thermal compounds. There's no sense to spend a lot of money. You're not going to see more than a degree or two of difference from one thermal compound to another. So Silver 5 is fine, the Noctua stuff is fine. Pretty much anything is fine. And what I like to do to make sure I get full coverage is I like to spread a thin layer of thermal compound over the entire surface of the CPU as if I were painting it. So for that, to keep my hands clean and to keep from any finger oils contaminating, I have some rubber gloves. Are you ready for your exam? Yeah, it's clean. All right, here we go. We'll put some thermal compound. You know what? Let's get a zoom in on this. Let's get you zoomed in here. A little closer. A little closer. That's pretty close. All right. So I'm going to just put some thermal compound on here. I'm going to just guesstimate how much it's going to take to spread out. Be a little generous with it. And now I'm just going to paint. This stuff's a little thick, so I'm going to have to add some more because of how thick it is. The other thing when you turn the computer on is this is going to become more viscous when it heats up. When that CPU starts heading into the 50 degrees Celsius range and higher, it's really going to make the thermal material melty. Is that a word? Melty? This is not spreading well. I wonder if this stuff is really old. I am not digging this. It should spread more without as much effort as I'm putting into it. Yeah, you know what? I'm not liking that one bit. It's coming back off. That's got to be too old. So this is the other problem. If you buy a thermal compound and you leave it in a drawer for too long, it could completely break down on you, and I think that's what's happened here. So I'm just going to... Oh, sure, now it's spreading. Go figure. But I'm not going to spread it with a paper towel because it leaves behind little pieces of the paper towel in there. Oh, God, that's awful. It actually looks pretty good now, but I'm not going to use it. No way, I'm not using that. Hold on, let me get my cleaner back out. Let me clean it back off. Oh, I guess I didn't put it back in here. What'd I do with it? Oh, I put it over here. Okay. Yeah, I think that thermal compound has been in the drawer for too long, but that's okay. I've got lots of other thermal compound materials, so no big deal. It's just a little added time. You'll see the way that breaks the, this is that rubbing alcohol, well, denatured alcohol. You see how it just cleans it right off of there. Yeah, that stuff was just too old. See what happens when you get old? I don't recommend it. Probably once the thermal compound heated up, it would probably be okay. But I put an awful lot on there just to spread a little bit around. So I have a feeling it would have oozed out the sides and been messy. So that's why I'm cleaning it off. It's just not right. This stuff is cheap, so it's not like you gotta worry about how much of it you use. It's very inexpensive to buy Arctic Silver 5 or the Noctua stuff. I think I'm gonna grab the Noctua stuff next, and we'll use that instead. Yeah, we're getting clean now. Maybe one more Q-tip ought to do it. Make sure you get the edges. Ugh, it's still smearing. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get another one. I was optimistic. That'll teach me. We're almost there. Pressure on it with my finger and see if that can't help get some of this stuff up. Much better. Still a little on the bottom there, isn't there? Not quite. Maybe one more. So close. So close. One more ought to do it. I've never had to use this many before. That's how much thermal compound ended up being on there because it was so thick. Let's just do the whole thing again. Make sure we get it all. Oh yeah, Q-tip's coming up much cleaner now. You'll see that evaporate off of there. Bloop. It should all evaporate, should look nice and clean again. I see a little bit around the edges, but it's nothing major. Depends how OCD you are. I'm pretty OCD. Look at that. I think it's cleaner now than when we took it out of the box. All right. Now, let me grab my other thermal material. Now this one I just ordered to replace what I used on that Threadripper build. So this is my Noctua NH1. And, oh, I better get another glove. All right, clean glove. Hee hee. Just one white glove. And we're ready. Oh, that's so much better. That should be more than enough right there. Let's see. Oh, that's what it's supposed to do. That's what a world of difference. Much better. Much, much better. That's good. That's really good. We just don't want to be able to see through that. Let's back it off a little bit here. I want to remind you that thermal compound, when it heats up, it becomes much more fluid, and so it doesn't really matter how you put it on because it's going to get all melty and move around. Let's go ahead and lay this down. You just want to make sure you have full coverage over the entire IHS, or the internal integrated heat shield. And this cooler, how's this go on? I guess it's going to have to go on with the latch. I want the latch easy to access, so I want it on this side. And I'm just going to set the cooler on top. You definitely want to lay the case down for this because the cooler's heavy and the thermal compound can be messy if you have it slip and fall around in there, so just FYI. This is a hokey mounting mechanism. I'm not happy about this at all. In fact, all the connectors up here are at the top, which are going to be really hard for me to see. I think I better put those cables on right now. Or I won't be able to get them on once it's in place. So That's our RGB cable there. Oh, it doesn't go there. Goes on this side. What I'm trying to do is there's little connectors up here on the top of this heatsink, and I'm trying to get these cables on now rather than later. It's very difficult to see. Time for some glasses. Oh no, this is a 4-pin. I had it right the first time. It's going to go on this side. And then that little rubber piece can go back on. And then the USB cable. Oh, that's a switch. That's not a connector. That's a switch that says low and high. Interesting. So I do have to take this other cover off that I just put back on. And this one's going to go right next to it. But I'm just glad I saw that now versus trying to do that when the thing is already mounted. All right, now let's see if I can. I'm sure it's not going to make this job any easier, have cables in the way. All right, there's one side. There's the other side, and now I can just bend the latch down. Whew, it's an awful lot of pressure on there. I get nervous when these latches feel like they're gonna break. It is so tight. There it goes. All right, it's in. Ta-da! I'll tell you what bums me out. They really want these cables to come out of the bottom. You can clearly tell with the AMD logo in this direction that it makes more sense for this AMD logo to be here. But if I put it up here, that means this latch is going to be up in here and these cables are going to come out of the bottom here. And I don't like that. I'd much prefer to have the cables as hidden as possible by running them out through the back here. Now the cooler is going to work fine in either orientation. It's really an aesthetics concern at this point, and also a maintenance concern, because if I have to release that latch to take this cooler off, to have it down in here, especially if you had a radiator or anything mounted up here, it wouldn't give you much room. I much prefer to have the latch down here. Bearing in mind we're going to have a graphics card here, which doesn't give us much room down here either. So there's a part of me that wants this AMD logo notification up on this side. But I hate the idea of these cables coming out from the bottom. That just kills the deal for me. Now, AMD gives you plenty of stickers. Why can't they just give me a sticker and let me put it where I want it, instead of forcing me into whatever you call that? Just ticks me off, because I'm looking at cable length here, and it looks like we'll be okay to run the cables back behind the board and then up through the bottom here. But if I flip it the other way and I have to bring the cables around and out, then I definitely won't have enough cables. But I really don't like that. So, what are you going to do? I really want to flip it around so this is in this corner. I really do. I just know my cables aren't going to reach, and it's not going to look as clean. Okay, Mara, what do you want me to do here? It's your system. You're the one who's got to look at it. You tell me. Doesn't matter to me. Whatever you want. Just tell me now. That's all I'm asking. Just tell me now. Ben's contributed $4.99. He says, you're doing a great job with the build, Carey. Keep up the great work. Hey, thank you so much. That was from Ben DeCour. Thank you, Ben. What would be the most optimal? The way I've installed it is the most optical for the wiring. It's not the most, I just don't like the word AMD being upside down. I feel like that, see if you, maybe you can't see it with the camera so far away, but I feel like that would look a lot better if AMD was up here. But that means these two cables are going to come out from the bottom, and then they have to be routed back around and back up, and I think they're too short for that. Or we don't use these cables, and then you don't control the RGB lighting, which would be kind of stupid to have it and not be able to adjust it. Or the cables are exposed through the glass panel, or the AMD logo is exposed upside down through the glass panel. I don't know. It's really a personal decision. The cooler doesn't work any differently in either orientation. Just can't. Wish I had a manual focus, or not a manual focus. I wish I had a manual zoom. Okay. Keep it like it is, she said. I'm translating because she's not using family-friendly language on my channel. Okay. Now we can put the graphics card in. As soon as I get my go-go juice in me. There we go. Dun, 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 dun. Now I have wings. Just like Paul McCartney. Kind of jealous. I want this graphics card. Catherine Anna Hauserman. If you had your choice of this graphics card or an RTX series card, would you pick an RTX series card, which is newer and more expensive, or would you pick this card? Please tell us why. Use a black marker and just cover that up? That's genius. I like that idea. Little piece of electrical tape right there, I'll fix that problem. I'll just set this right there. Now, one of the ways you know this computer is going to go faster is you have these stickers, and they show it going faster. So if you put these stickers on, it goes faster. In fact, Anything you put these stickers on, make it go faster. Hence, these are go faster stickers. You gotta have those if you want your computer to go faster. There's your poster to hang over the bed. Like all, never mind. Decided not to say that. Decided not to say that. All right, let's put that on the stove where it can catch fire. Drop some documentation. Let's see, what do we have in documentation? We've got, I don't know, some stuff here. Driver disk, I'm not going to use that. Manual, yeah, that can all go over here. And let's see, we got some adapter cables for people who are too cheap to buy the right power supply but have $1,000 to spend on a graphics card. I'll never understand that. I don't know what NVIDIA's thinking sometimes. And that's all there is there. So I'm going to put that right over there. Okay, brand new. Those red words, it says remove this tape before using. You tell him, Jimmy. And then we have some more tape up on the front here. I swear getting this tape off is harder than installing the card. The most difficult part of building your computer is getting the parts out of the boxes. Well, I guess I'm going around the rest of my life like this. Ta-da! All right. Now I'm going to have to remove two of these slot covers. Which two do I have to remove? Let's see if we line this up. Oh, I don't like that one bit. I did not catch this. When you buy a cheap computer case, the slot covers are pieces of metal you have to break off. That is disappointing on a case of this level that they did that. That means if you don't have spare slot covers and you take out the wrong ones, you're going to have an opening here that you'll have to go on to Amazon or something and find some spare ones. That's bogus. There's one. Yeah, that is the sign of a cheap case. If you have to break these off, you bought a cheap case. I have superhuman strength, this bar of steel. I bend it with 2 fingers. Yeah. That is not quality, my friends. Oh, God, you just lost points, Gamdias. You just lost some points. Wah, wah. I'll just put these where they belong. The trash can. Oh, well, I guess that explains what those other screws were for then, huh? Usually the screws are already in there holding the slot covers. I did not notice that. Shame on me. that explains what those hex head screws were for. I was wondering why there were so many. Now I get it. It's all starting to make sense. Oh, we got the PC speaker. We could throw that on. We don't need it, but we'll just put it on there. Gamdias included it. Motherboards don't use PC speakers anymore. I mean, they've got the connector for them, but... Gamdias. All right. Make sure the slot is in the open position. It's just like the memory. It has like a retention lever. Make sure that retention lever is open. Make sure you line up the video card with the slot and that the ports are coming through the rear slots here. And once that's all lined up, you push it and you should hear it click into position. Yeah, it clicked. It was quiet, but it did it. And I need to grab 2 screws to secure the video card now. So there's one. And here's number 2. All right, done. And now we can hook power, and the way we're going to do that is what? What's it going to be? I guess we're going to go this way. Put on the 8-pin connector, and then we'll put on the 6-pin connector. You probably think this computer is better now, better now. Wait, what? Don't do that, Carey. Okay, sorry. All right, set that over there. What is that? Oh, it's a rubber band. All right, let's get some power to this thing. Okay, we've got power. Make sure you plug the HDMI cable into the graphics card, not into your motherboard, or you may not be happy with your performance. I want to take this little plastic cover and place it over the motherboard. I'm going to take one of the display port connectors off too. I can't get it off because the card is just sitting a little too high. I'm gonna have to lower it just a little bit. That's better. And I'll just take this little cover and put it on back here. That way the customer won't see that as options. I've also had customers say there's no ports on the back of this video card because they don't know that those are little plastic covers keeping the ports free of dust. I like to back these off a little bit and then tighten them to make sure they're at the right torque setting. Again, it doesn't matter, it's just an OCD thing. All right, let's make sure that these antennas are upright. Very good. We're ready now. We are absolutely ready to test fire this bad boy and see what happens. This is what we do, we call the smoke test. You see, computers, they run on smoke, and if you let the smoke out, well, they won't run anymore. Carl Curtins contributed €5. Hey, Carl, thank you for your contribution and support of the channel. All right, here we go. We're going to go to this mode. We're going to turn this on. Oh, wait. I did not plug the CPU fan in. Wait a minute. How does the CPU plug in? Oh. You see, in my haste, I did not plug the CPU fan in. Let me correct that. And I know I didn't plug the RGB stuff in. I'm not worried about that just yet. It's going to work just fine without it. Although, is one of these USB? One of these is. I'll plug the USB one in because it's quick. I don't know where the RGB one goes yet. So let me just plug in the USB one because I know exactly where that's going to go. right there. Perfect. Where does the RGB go? CPU fan goes over here. Plugged it in the wrong place. It's way up here. It helps if you plug your CPU fan into the proper header. That's another example where if you plug it into the wrong place, it'll still work, but you might get notifications from your BIOS that no fan is being detected. And that can be a little bit frustrating to figure out where that's coming from. I see a 4-pin RGB connector. Is that this same connector here? Ooh, I think it is. Maybe I will go ahead and plug it in right now because it's way over here, but I don't know which side is pin 1. Looks like it can go on either way. And you'd think by now they would have not done this anymore. There's an arrow indicating to the left. So I'm going to assume that that is short for pin 1. Yeah, we'll plug it in. We'll see what happens. We'll do a real smoke test. None of this matters if the system doesn't boot. Just saying, you shouldn't worry about your RGB stuff at this point. But since I'm here, and I'm confident, I figured it'd be a great time to make a fool of myself. There we go. All right. All right. Fire it up again. Let's see if our CPU fan turns this time. Oh, that's a big difference. Wow, there's a lot of colors going on here. Oh boy, yeah. Wow. It's pretty colorful. Fan on the, oh, they're both fans on the graphics card stopped spinning. Why do we not have video? Be patient, be patient. Let's give it a minute. We know everything was working. The only thing we've changed is the CPU and the graphics card. So I want to give the BIOS a second to adjust. And I'm starting to get a little nervous right now. This is taking too long. I don't like how slow the fan is spinning. Yeah, we should have seen something by now. I'm gonna, oh. Hey, I didn't plug the video cable in because I'm an idiot. Let me plug the video cable in, how about that? The thing about HDMI is if you plug the HDMI in after the system boots, it may not detect it. So we have to shut off the machine and turn it back on again. This time it should detect that we have a monitor plugged into the HDMI port and activate it with the signal to go through. Always check the easy things first, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes in our rush, we forget simple little things. I am as guilty of that as anybody, and it often happens from overconfidence. So being nervous is good. That's why I'm jealous of first-time builders. You're much more careful of the process than an experienced builder. Yeah, now I need a Coke. Not yet, not just yet. We're getting close though. So far so good. It's going to detect some new hardware. Let's restart again. Got my flash drive, it's got the NVIDIA driver on it, so we don't have to wait to download that again. I'll give you guys a close-up here of what the machine looks like, since you don't need to look at my mug. All right, Jimmy, you tell them. You let them know you mean business, boy. A free unicorn with every purchase. wonder why the Wi-Fi stopped connecting. Forgot it. That's better. Make sure these USB ports on the front work. Yay! It's a good sign. NVIDIA driver right there. See the CPU, AMD Ryzen 7 2700X, 3.7 gigahertz, 32 gigs of RAM. Everything's looking really good, just like it should. Yeah, we're going to run the graphics card first. We'll run that benchmark, and then we'll run our temps again. Oh, it already loaded a driver in the background. It's all right, we're going to replace it anyway. PC Fishing says, thank you, Carey, for your video. Take care, everyone, and be good to one another. Well, thanks for joining us, PC Fishing. Glad you could join us today. And sure beats going out on a Black Friday. This is a day I don't want to leave the house, which is pretty much like every day, but worse. All right, we're going to let the driver install. Now I can have a Coke. Now I can reward myself. Come to Papa. I'm just putting the 2400 CPU back in its box along with its cooler while we're waiting for the driver to install. All right, we got the driver installed, so now we can run the benchmark and see how it runs. Remember what the benchmarks numbers were the other day? Yeah, these are going to be completely different. All right. F9 to start the test. Here we go. All the parts for this build are in the video notes below the video, if you're just joining us. All right, there's the performance benchmarks, 251.8 frames per second with a score of 6343. A big difference. If you watch yesterday's video and see how that test performs, it's, yeah, very different. I'm just working on putting some stuff away here while we're running these tests. Just a moment, I am almost done. There we go. All right, so I can cancel this, get out of that, and we'll hit quit. And quit. All right. Now the question is, how will it run if I max the crap out of it? So to do that, we'll go back to the flash drive and pull those utilities. They're probably in the recycle bin, aren't they? Let's take everything back out of the recycle bin, because I need those. All right, let's do the Cinebench, see what that does. All right, now let's do the other test. Oh, I gotta use the right mouse. All right, there's our final numbers. It looks like, so small on my screen. 111.94 frames per second on the OpenGL test, and 1741 CB on the CPU side. So that answers that. Now to close this, I have to get rid of that video up there so I can see the corner. There we go. And well, let's bring up Prime 95, and we'll bring up HW Info. We'll start HW Info first, take a look at what our temps are now before we start this test. And let's see, we want sensors. And we want our TMAC, what is it, TIDL, something like that. Where is it? There it is. So here's where we're, this one, this is, no, that one. That's the one we want to watch. And we're sitting where we should be. Now let's start Prime 95. Remember, a regular user wouldn't push their computer this hard for this period of time. So this represents a worst case scenario. We go with all the default values, let it hit all the cores at 100%, and then let's watch the temperatures. Whoops, let me close that. Let me bring the temperatures back up. And we want to keep an eye on, this is our current temperature, our minimum value, and our maximum value. We want to watch that maximum value. It's exactly 3:30. So we'll let this run for up to 15 minutes. And I want to turn the camera back on. You can see the fans ramp up on this as it heats up. And let me move this out of the way so you can read everything correctly. We'll just put that over here because Prime 95 is nothing to look at. This is the area we want to pay attention to. And we are getting hot quick. You keeping busy out there, Jimmy? You keeping away the bad guys, boy? Yeah, you are. You're a good boy. You're a good boy, Jimmy. Oh, I hear you. Well, it's ramping up. I can feel the heat. Graphics card's not hot. Definitely the CPU's warming up. It's holding up. It's doing good so far. I can't complain. We're seeing a maximum of 68.4. It's climbing though, so we'll keep an eye on it. Gonna watch that max. Guess I can put these documentation in the box with everything else while I'm waiting. Why do I smell pizza? Might be having a stroke. See how our temps are doing. Oh. Still doing good on the temps. temps are doing really, really well. I'm much more impressed. I really think that thermal compound's making a difference, although this is a different chip though, but it's doing much, much better. Okay, well, I do mute the microphone when some tests are running, when I've got cleanup to do. While the test is running, I'm picking up boxes and stuff. It's just making a lot of noise, so I just mute the microphone for that. You're not missing anything because I'm not saying anything. So anyway, let's see, how are we doing on our temps right now? Still at 70.1. That's, unless that's a throttling temperature on this CPU. Well, no, it can't be because it just exceeded it. Ooh, ooh, it's getting hot now. Fans cranking up. Something just kicked in. We're 8 minutes into the test. 80.5. I'm okay with 80.5. That's okay. I wonder what our throttle's temp is. I'm sure it's not that low. I don't think we're throttling yet. Ooh, I can really feel the heat coming off of that. Holy smokes. Gotta get a marshmallow. No, it's not that bad. It's warm though, especially right in here. Not the best place to put an M.2 drive. Yeah, I can feel the air blowing out right at the bottom. Graphics card's warm, very warm. I can't give her much more, Captain. She's breaking oop. Doing all right. We're still doing okay. You know, I wonder, yeah, it feels like air's coming out equally out of all sides. It's good. This is why we have global warming. (84°C). We're still okay. We're still in a good range. 4 more minutes, and your pizza will be done. It does get loud. need to get a rear case fan on there. Two more minutes. How are we doing? I haven't checked it in a couple minutes. 84. That's okay. 84 is good. Remember, this is a worst case scenario. This is like as hot as it's ever going to realistically get. And even then, it's probably never going to work this hard for this long. Typically, under normal usage, whether you're gaming or whatever you're doing, it's going to get hot for brief little periods of time. It's going to spike and come back down. So this is an extreme test. And it's not there to performance benchmark it. It's there as a safety test. It's to make sure that if it can withstand what I throw at it, then it can withstand whatever a customer throws at it, more than likely. There are certain customers out there that are different, you know, that push the computer under, but they're few and far between, so. Yeah, that AMD logo lights up, doesn't it? The AMD logo would look sweet in the top left corner now. Yeah, you know, the glass panel does do a good job of hiding the black cables because the lights really shine through. Yeah, if the owner wants me to, to rotate the heatsink, it's no big deal. We don't have to apply any thermal compound again. We just unlatch it, rotate it 180 degrees, and then latch it back down. But then the cabling is going to look terrible. So I'm not, I don't know. I don't think it really matters. Nobody's really, it's not really going to go in a museum or anything. It's going to go on the floor next to a desk, I imagine. So I guess as long as the cats don't mind. If you want the stock cooler, check your motherboard to see if there are headers at the top. There's never USB 2 headers at the top. And the cables simply won't reach if we wrap it around the CPU and then run it behind the motherboard tray. If we flip the CPU, we'd have to run the cable straight down. It's just simply not a long enough cable. So this is typical stock cooler stuff. You know, they're generally, their cable management isn't really under consideration with the coolers. If it was, they'd be modular for the power cable too. All right, so that is 16 minutes. I've actually gone a little bit longer. And the maximum we've hit is 84. Now let's see how long this takes to cool down. So let me stop the Prime 95 test and watch this temperature right here. So this is our current temp, 77.8. Watch what happens now. Stop the test. Watch how fast that drops. You can already hear it quieting down. It's getting there. Doesn't cool down as fast as an Intel, but it's getting there. We should get down into the low 40s, upper 30s at regular idle temps. So anyway, that's the test I run. It passes it with flying colors. There's no concern of overheating here. It's great. It does get a little bit loud, so it will let you know when it's working. It's not going to do it, and you're not going to know. And like I said, most people simply don't push a computer that hard for that period of time. It's pretty unusual, so it's good. It's all good. Oh, it's not going under a desk, it's going on a desk. Well, again, if you want the cooler rotated, it's fine by me. No, she doesn't want the cooler rotated. Silly. I agree. All right, where was I? Let's get that flash drive ejected out of here. Eject. Thank you. And let's go back to the main camera here. There we are. Let's see if I can find a rear case fan for this. This is going to want, looks like a 120 or a 140. 140s are going to spin slower because they're bigger and they move more air. So we want a 140. We'll use one of my NZXT fans I've got here. This ought to work well for you. Is that going to fit back here? Oh yeah, that's going to look good. Yeah, we're going to use that. Oh, another package came in the mail. I was waiting. Whoa, I was hoping that wasn't a half shirt. Nice. What's this one? All right, new material. All right, let's shut down the case, or I mean shut down the computer so I can put a fan in the case. We'll go to shut down. That's going off. Back to the main camera. We should see that turn off here in a moment. All right, we should have some fan screws that came with the case, with the bag of screws that I already put away. And I cleaned up because I spilled them all out. Now I gotta spill them all out again. I don't see any. What the heck? What the heck, man? I got the long screws for the front case, man. But where's my fan screws for the back? Is it a separate bag? No, no. Okay, we've got another strike against the Gamdias case. They didn't give me any fan screws for the back. Well, I have extra fan screws. Good thing I build with so many it's a good thing I build with so many Corsair 200R cases because they always give me a lot of fan screws and I never use them. Now remember, on a fan like any of these fans, this side here is the part that sucks air in, and where you see the support brackets where the center doesn't turn, that's the side the air's coming out. So this is, we want to mount it so that it's going to suck air in and out through the back. So to install this, I'm going to grab my screwdriver here. Now see, for the NZXT logo to be upright, the cable's coming out the wrong side. So I want the cable coming out that side. So the NZXT logo is going to be sideways, but who's looking at the back of the case anyway? Once again, just an OCD thing. Oh, the glass is in my way. It's a pain in the glass. Haha. Where do I want to put this? Lower or higher? Let's go for the middle. Oops, that ain't right. Did that just go right through? No. Stay. Stay. Bad. All right, that's good enough. Yeah, it's just going right through. All right then. Why is that happening? That's new. These are apparently designed for radiators, so let me grab a different fan. It's very strange. It's got little inserts in there that are just too wide for a standard fan screw. I think I used these, I think this came from a radiator. This is a Corsair fan. And we're using Corsair screws, so we shouldn't have any problem with this. And if I put it with the logo facing up, the cable comes out of the proper side. That's the fan I want to use. It's better all the way around. Except for the color, I guess. It'll do all right. It'll be all right. It's a tight fit, though. Yay! One, two, three, one more. Seriously? I gotta see where I got a fan header on this board. Okay. Oh, that's not what I wanted. fan header. Oh, there it is. Very good. Right down here. Not quite sure I can do much about that right now. You know what? I can tuck it away though. You can go right down there. That'll hide it good enough. Let's fire it up now. I guess in a perfect world, you could get a matching fan here. If you wanted to, you could put a third one at the top. I think there's enough room for one more fan up there and get the same fan to go back there. If you wanted to, you could order those from Gamdias. But in the meantime, we at least have rear exhaust. Nice and cool coming out of there. Everything looks good. A lot of reflection. It should shut off here in just a second. Perfect. Now, all I have to do is the cable management, which is kind of messy here on the other side, and throw the back panel on. And I'm not going to film that because it's all pretty basic. It's going to look just like this when it's done. Exactly as you see it here. This is how the cable management's going to look. From this side of the case, it's really not going to change much. I may try and do something a little bit more with these, but really, there's not much to do here. There's really nothing to tie there either. It's, well, maybe I can get a little bit of a tie on that. Maybe. It'll be tight. But that'll pretty much be it. I'll just wire tie these together or zip tie these together here, zip tie these together, zip tie this, clean up the back of it, throw the panel on it, and it's ready to be delivered. And then Mara can get back to the serious business of kicking butt. Oh, and then she games too. I was just talking about her work. All right, guys, if there's any final questions, this will be the time to ask. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up today's live stream. What have we been going on? 3 hours and 30 minutes here. Roger says, great build. Hey, thank you, Roger. Jesse says, great job. Definitely enjoyed this upgrade, Carey. Thank you. Well, thanks for joining us, Jesse, and thanks for your support. Roger985 says, it's a nice build. A Life of Gaming with Dull Dorge has contributed £2. He says, great build and enjoyed the stream. Well, thank you for contributing. Thanks for supporting the stream. 716 people watching live. That's not too shabby. Dave Murray joining us from Scotland, Bonnie, Scotland. Great viewing, Carey, as always. Well, thank you, Dave. Remember, if you like the video, please hit that that thumbs up button there. Just give that a little clicky. And if you want to know when new videos are posted or the next time I go live, just hit the subscribe button. If you've already subscribed, make sure you hit the bell icon, or if you're just subscribing, hit that bell icon, because YouTube will not send most people notifications by default. You have to tell YouTube to do it. You would think that subscribing implies you want notifications, but apparently they got a lot of complaints and they changed it. So remember, if you're going to subscribe or you've already subscribed, then hit the bell icon. It only appears after you subscribe. Turn those notifications on if you want to know when new videos are posted or when I go live. That's how you know. Ben DeCours contributed $4.99. He says, great build and a great stream. Glad to see you, Carey, and my friends in the chat. That's awesome, Ben. Thank you so much. And I do hope that this community that I'm trying to build here, that we are all friends, support one another. Jasmine Hremovic says, greetings from Bosnia. Welcome in, Jasmine. Carey, do you have any final thoughts on the case? Well, that's a good question. There are some improvements I would make. You know, it's pretty rare that I ever see a perfect product. In fact, I always tell people before they send me a product, if I don't find something that can be improved, I'm not doing my job. It's pretty rare that I have a perfect product. So with a second view on this, I'm going to stick with that rear case fan. I think we should have 3 fans here and a matching fan in the back. Should come stock with the case. These PCI slot covers should be removable and held in with screws, like most cases, for all of them. I really think it's a joke to think that you could put a radiator up here. This has to be another 3/4 of an inch or inch taller. It's better to have more room than you need than to make it such a tight fit. There's no reason they couldn't go another inch taller on this. Power supply shroud, it'd be nice if this came off so I could work on the case and then put this back on. I'm seeing more and more case manufacturers rivet this bad boy in here, and that just makes it hard. Makes it harder than it needs to be. You should have an option if you want this or not. And quite frankly, if the glass didn't come down this far, they could have saved money by having the glass shorter and just having the a panel go right here. You know, have the case come up a little taller on this side. That would still make it easier to get into the power supply. To have the top of it covered, I don't know. I don't know how necessary that is. Most of the cables stay pretty low. I don't have an answer for everything, but at the very least, this should be removable for working on the system instead of having to always go to the other side. You know, it does make plugging in modular cables a bear when you've got a bunch of them plugged in already, and you've got that hard drive tray in there. You don't have a lot of room, it's dark. It's very difficult to work on all of that just because it's going to look prettier. Well, if this piece came out, we could establish the same exact thing while making it easy to work on, and then we can put the piece back in. Some cases allow for that. I've worked on a few in past videos where the shroud came off. But this case is very aggressively priced. I think it's a good deal for $100, but it'd be a better deal for $100 if they made those improvements. Very much like that I can switch the front panel from the top to the bottom and vice versa. That's clever. I really like that. I really like this V-cut glass. It's very strange, so I like that. If it's strange, I probably like it. And I wish they didn't make the red. I wish they didn't make the connectors to the graphics card red on the graphics card side. It makes sense that you did it to the side that plugs into the power supply, and those power supply connectors were also the same color. In fact, I wish they did that with all the connectors. Give them all a if it's a 6-pin connector, make it one color. If it's an 8-pin connector, make it another color. And you just match the colors to the back of the power supply. For everything else, the opposite end of the cable should all be black. If we're so worried about how things look, I mean, that's like wearing a red pair of shoes. Who does that? It's going to stand out. Don't you pan down. Don't you? Ah! See, that would have been funny if I wasn't my own cameraman and somebody else did that. Anyway, yeah, that's that would be it. And I wish the magnets were a little stronger so this wouldn't open so easily. As far as the cable management on this side, it looks like we're going to be okay. We got a lot of room here. So we should have no problem with cable management on this case whatsoever. Got lots of cable tie downs. So yeah, I'll just do that now. We'll get that wrapped up. It's an interesting case. It can use a little improvement, like I said, just a little bit. They're so close to having a case where I wouldn't have any recommendations. I'd like to see a toolless 2.5-inch drive mounting mechanism here, just like we saw in the NZXT with those removable units that I always take out of the, you saw me take them off of the Nuka-Cola cases where you can actually move them around and put them where you want them, and they're toolless on top. I think they're toolless, pretty sure. I know the device itself is toolless to move it around. And of course the 200R has the toolless drive bays as well. I'd like to see more of that. We should be moving forward, not staying where we were. I think that's about it. So overall, it's not my favorite, and it's far from worst. You know, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give it about a 6.6. I'd give it a 6.66. That's what I give it. And I'd give them an extra point if they fix the PCI slots, give them an extra point for a fan, give them an extra point for SSD covers, and then they'd be at 9.6. Give me the extra fan in the front, 9.8. What else can we do to get them to another 0.2? That's it. That's as high as this case can go, is a 9.8. Oh, give me another inch up here. Then you'll be at a 10. So that's where you're at, in my opinion. All right, so if there's no other questions, John Wilson says, as always, a great big thank you for all you do for us. Have a great weekend, my friend. Well, thank you, John. You too. Steve Bernstein says, another master class. I always learn something. You and me both, Stephen. Thanks for joining us in the classroom today. Robert Jones says, very informative and entertaining, Carey. Thank you, Robert. And of course, thanks to all the people you see in blue. Those are the moderators keeping it civil. We're keeping the chat room friendly. Replace the magnet. You can't replace the magnets. I don't know what you guys are talking about. You can't replace them. They're in the glass. Or I guess they're not coming off. Those are solidly in place. I just wish they were stronger or they add more, but yeah, you're not going to replace those. And besides that, if the magnet's too thick, the glass won't shut flush. So you need a thin magnet, or you need to be able to grind into the glass without cracking it. And tempered glass, I'll tell you what, it's very strong glass, but the minute you get an imperfection in it, it'll shatter real easily. So this is the kind of glass they use in your refrigerator. It'll all be tempered glass in there. And it's strong glass. Believe me, it's strong. But modifying magnets and stuff on the glass, I think you'd be insane to do that. If you don't like it, I'd say buy another case and move the parts to another case. It's not that big of a deal. So if Mara decides that there's a case of her dreams that comes out in the future, we could easily swap these parts into another case. That's the beauty of building your own machine, is the options never stop. You can spend and spend and spend and run out of money long before you run out of choices. Roger says, thank you for the stream. Well, thanks for joining us, Roger. Paul Newman says, thanks, Carey. See you next time. Thank you, Paul. Catherine says they have the P1. This is the M1, so the P1 is taller, so maybe they should have sent me the P1. I always tell companies, you better send me the best you got, because otherwise I'm going to tear it apart, you know. Frank Decker is $20 to support your work. Thank you, Frank. Russell Reynolds says he got his case badge. Thanks for the update, Russell. I hope you enjoy it. In fact, you should be a moderator. All right. So for all of you who've contributed in today's build, and let's give everybody another shout out who did that. Ben DeCure, A Life of Gaming with Deldorge, Christoph Esch, Carl Curtin, Jens Carlson, Donnie Seeger, Vasil Savilov, Frederick Ludholm. Well, a lot of contributions from Frederick. A special shout out to Frederick for that. Orlando Brave, Paul, and PJ Martin, Chris Cooper, Matthew Matson, Ben Fitzpatrick, Ben DeCour, Ralph Weizar, Matthew Matson, a couple more from A Life of Gaming with Deldorge, a couple more from Frederick Lundholm, Jack Russell, and again with Matthew Matson. So thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. And if you want to contribute, you can use the donate button at tech-vets.com. There's a donate button in the upper right. Donations of $20 or more, I'll offer you to mail you a case badge anywhere in the world that you can proudly display. And one more time, if you enjoyed the video, maybe I need to stand over here. If you enjoyed the video, you can let me know by clicking the thumbs up button right there, just below the video. And if you want to be alerted to new content and new videos, live or otherwise, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon to turn those notifications on. Okay, that's going to wrap up today's build. Once again, a shout out to everybody for being supportive, those contributors, those participating in the chat, and those just being cool people, which is all of us. That's going to wrap it up for me. I will see you all again very, very soon. And until next time, bye for now.